Good evening. Thank you. I'd like to call the meeting of the Gualala Municipal Advisory Council to order on this Thursday, September 4th, 2025. Our first item is called is the roll call. Mr. Schrock.
My pleasure, Council Member Evans. You're here. Good. I can see you're here, even if you're not talking to me tonight. Councilmember Hess.
Here.
Councilmember Lewis.
Here.
Councilmember Mayor.
Here.
Councilmember Hayward.
Here.
Noting that Councilmember Finley is out on medical leave.
Yes, we have two communications, one from Mr. Youngling and Ms. Finley, and both are excused for this evening. So if you could please note that. Okay. Item number 2, approval of the agenda. I know that we have a couple changes. We could make those.
Sure, I have a few, but that doesn't mean others may not have others. The posted agenda was absent several items of correspondence between all members of council. There were a couple on September 2nd having to do with the draft agenda materials distributed, and another on the 3rd, and then a 4th on September 4th. I'd also like to request that we shift the order of the agenda to enable the number 8 old business to proceed after the Mendocino County Sheriff report.
Okay, 8.1. Any other additions from the council? I would like to add one item under new business. So that would be 9.1, and it'd be Gualala Municipal Advisory Council bylaws.
Oh, great.
So, that's why it's at the end. Any other
You're going to take personal responsibility for that.
any other additions, corrections? Hearing that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
I'll move to approve as amended.
Moved by Councilmember Mayor. Second by Councilmember Lewis. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 And I also want to make note that in the absence of Mr. Youngling and Ms. Finley, that our alternate Jack Hayward will be sitting in as a regular member this evening.
Have power.
Thank you.
Good.
Okay, item number 3. Approval of minutes. I'm sure all of you have received the minutes. I will entertain any comments. If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Yeah, never mind. Nothing.
Want to make a motion to approve?
Oh, no, I was not present, so I'm not going to do that. I was going to ask a question. But
We have a motion by Councilmember Lewis to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Councilmember Hayward. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
And I'll abstain since I was not
One
present.
abstention from Henry. Thank you. Okay, correspondence. You have a list of the correspondence that was received in addition to council member Schrock's additions. Any other questions on that? Great, we'll move on. Deputy McNally, you have the floor.
How are you guys this evening?
We're doing
Good,
excellent.
nothing on.
So, sir, can you hear me?
Well,
Are we good?
Let me see. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So I thought I'd give you the stats for the month of August. From Mendocino South, there were 237 calls for service in August. there were 46 calls in the Gualala area. So we had 2 welfare checks, 1 unwanted person, 1 threats call, 1 suspicious circumstance call, 1 pedestrian stop, 1 special event, 2 complaints of shooting heard in a specific area, 11 security checks, 2 missing people, 1 follow-up call, 1 harassment, 1 fraud, 1 eviction, 1 disturbance, 6 civil services where we serve papers for folks, 2 citizen assists, 2 outside agency assists, and 9 911 hangups. So overall, it wasn't too bad a month.
Can you share any more detail about the shooting, the area of the shooting?
A lot of times what happens is we have folks that shoot on their private property, which is totally legal,
Mhm.
and their neighbors don't like it.
Okay.
So a lot of times what will happen is I'll go out and make sure they're shooting in a safe manner, and that's the end of it.
And then the missing persons, can you? share anything more?
I don't have any information on those. They happened when I was not working. We get a lot of like overdue subjects because of the hiking.
Mhm.
So they'll go out hiking and somebody misses them for a couple hours and they call us, and luckily they've all been coming back.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
yes, sir.
So shooting on a private property doesn't have the Fish and Game Code restriction of being 150 yards from a building?
It does. Yeah, without permission. If you're shooting on your own property, you're fine.
Okay, thank you.
It just has to be in a safe manner, and that's a lot of it. You get a lot of folks from different areas here that don't understand how that works. So a lot of it is just me educating.
Thank you.
I have one quick one.
Yes,
I'm just curious, is there anything, is there a noise ordinance, curfew type thing associated
Well,
with that
they
at
would,
all?
they would normally, there's a construction ordinance in the area, but it usually wouldn't matter with shooting. If somebody's shooting at an unnatural hour, you could give us a call, we'll go check on it. Usually that's not somebody just target shooting. Usually that's somebody,
Sure,
something we do need to check on.
sure, makes sense.
Chris, did you get a call or did you respond to the call about the motorcycle that went down at about the 7-mile mark by Chem Gas? I guess they went down on
I did not.
Saturday.
Yeah, I did not. I was off duty on Saturday.
Okay, yeah, I was just wondering the outcome of that person.
I don't have any information on that at all.
Okay. Any other?
Yeah, reference to that. Do you communicate with the construction crews on Highway 1 at all, or?
In regard to what?
Well, they've got a speed limit electronic sign at the 9-mile marker in the turnout. And it's dead center in the turnout, which would make it really difficult for somebody hauling a fifth wheel, semi-trailer or whatever to use the turnout, and those are the people we want in the turnout.
Right, that would be something we would have to notify CalTrans on
Okay,
that.
I'll give them a call.
Yeah, I fall victim to the construction times myself unless I'm going somewhere on emergency. I sat for probably 20 minutes today. They were moving some equipment.
Oh, yeah.
And it takes a lot to get that stuff turned around. So we waited for a little while.
Any other questions?
Anybody else have a question I can answer real quick for you? Yes, sir.
I have a question about complaints of shooting. And I live on Iverson, just below the firehouse, and I do have a neighbor who likes to shoot his gun. And really, before I even address it, I really just would like to know how to find resources on rules, regulations, laws, ordinance, or code.
There's actually in the Mendocino County Code, there's some information on shooting on private property. And then usually that would fall under the Fish and Game Code. And usually it's, safe direction, distances from inhabited dwellings and or vehicles, and not shooting across roadways, that sort of thing. There's some specific things.
And may I reach out to you if I have a question?
Absolutely. I'll leave my card with you before I leave.
Sure,
Okay.
thank you.
Any other questions I can answer real quick? Yes, sir, Mr. Bauer.
As I've stated in the past, I've seen some side-by-side four-wheelers going lickety split down Little Stage, and I saw another one here, I think it was last week, and they have LED lights that right across the top of the windshield, and it's pretty blinding, and they don't slow it down.
Right, and we're keeping an eye out for that sort of thing. When you see that, Mr. Bauer, if you can give us a call, so that we can maybe get some kind of timing. You know, they tend to know that I bounce between here and Mendocino. Sometimes I bounce between here and Fort Bragg and then back. So they kind of play the odds. I did have a discussion with two youngsters on motorcycles the other day that were very understanding, and they didn't even run, which was really surprising. Normally they take off. And you're not going to catch a motorcycle in a patrol car. So normally you're like, hopefully I see you again.
Later.
Right? But we had a discussion about the fact that they need to be pushing their motorcycles on the side of the road. And a lot of that's education with them too. Right? They don't understand that it could be an expensive fine, and mom and dad could have to pay for a tow bill on the motorcycle if I decide to tow it. And that's not what I want to do. I'd rather educate them. I mean, frankly, I'd rather them riding motorcycles and doing other stuff that they could be doing to get in trouble.
Well, the side by side seems to be run by, I would say, well-aged grown-ups.
Right. I don't disagree. I don't disagree with that, but it's just a matter of catching them and being able to get that down. And
That's
so-
pretty difficult up here.
It's absolutely, it's not, where I came from, it was just as tough. Right? Where I came from, they would open up across the desert at 120 miles an hour on a motorcycle. You're not going to catch them anyway. You know, so that would be a big thing where you're just looking at a binocular saying, maybe I'll get you next time. But yeah, it's just something we're working on. I sat up on the ridge for probably about 30 minutes today by the park. I was going to go through the airport today, but they were doing some ambulance driver training and I didn't want to mess with them. So I didn't go through the airport today. But I sat up there and tried to slow some traffic down just by sitting there and being seen.
And we had some unique aircraft there today.
No, I did not.
Came right behind my house. It's a really nice view. So.
Anything else I can talk about with anybody? All right. Have a good evening, guys.
Thank you,
Thanks for
Chris.
coming, Chris.
Okay, number 8.0, CalTrans report.
I think somebody else.
Do you have that queued up, Don? We have something queued up?
What are we looking at next? No, there's no material for this one. This is, you gonna take it up?
Or I can. This is 8.1?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you want to go for it?
Sure.
Either one.
Sorry, gentlemen, excuse me, deputy,
I'm sorry, sir.
no, yeah.
We're gonna move on.
Okay, so on Streetscape, when last, I was here, we were waiting on the first, coastal permit administrator review. And then, when last y'all met, it was in between the review meeting and the continuation, which was very brief. So that was approved, by the coastal permit administrator. And at the start of that meeting, there was, or the day of the meeting that morning, there was a memo that for the first time released some kind of budget estimate for the landscaping maintenance cost, which was, and I quote, no more than a few tens of thousands of dollars, which struck some, including myself, as high. And the sticking points for having landscaping and why it got removed from the project, I mean, basically it's the need for a maintenance agreement from the county. And the reason why we weren't getting that were twofold. One was the direct cost of maintenance, and one was that we had heard that CalTrans wanted the county to take on liability, including trip and fall liability, if there was landscaping in the project. So I tried to track down the sources of both of these pieces of information after that meeting. On the few tens of thousands of dollars, that turned out to be an estimate given by county DOT, which was admittedly from them, not an estimate they should have given. It wasn't based on any detailed understanding of the project or any particular expertise. It was just a number that was given out. So that number really carries no particular meaning. And then the second piece of it was the trip and fall liability and liability through the project area, which after sort of trying to dig through that and figure out where that had come from, eventually got a quote from Katie Everett, an email that was at the CalTrans project administrator who said, CalTrans is the owner operator of the facility and must maintain the facility. CalTrans is liable for all issues that arise within the right of way. So that conflicted with that information. I tried to track it down from the other side and eventually found out that that had been pure speculation from County DOT. There is in fact no liability issue in that regard. After that, I had some conversations with Ted Williams. Ted, are you with us? Oh, you're over there. Oh, hey.
He's happy.
So please jump in if you think I'm misstating any of that. But my understanding of where things are now is that CalTrans is on board with bringing landscaping back into the project. MCOG is on board with bringing landscaping back into the project. County staff is going to recommend a landscaping agreement, is last I heard, and that'll be on the agenda for the 23rd. Is that all still accurate?
There is an item on the schedule for this one.
Okay. So as I understand it, there's no longer any opposition from any of the agencies to this. It's just a matter of getting to a maintenance agreement, which would kick in probably something like 3 or 4 years from now, because CalTrans would maintain it for the first 2 years after project completion. So that's going to be on the agenda on the 23rd, and the county has asked us to make a recommendation on the issue.
Sure, let me amplify it a little bit. On the liability issue, it may not, well, it is not merely trip and fall, but CalTrans is liable for safety within the highway right of way, and that liability isn't something that can be argued away. And it is a substantial component of an agreement with a local government that would take on some form of activity within the state highway right of way. So there is a liability matter that must be dealt with substantially.
Well,
And likely a component of a maintenance agreement between the county and CalTrans. There are other components such as bonding to ensure that there's adequate financial backing behind insurance, and likely insurance documentation. Nevertheless, CalTrans will need an agreement with a local government that would be willing to take on perpetual maintenance of decorative landscaping. And it appears that the county is in the best position to do that, but I'm not going to talk more about the county's position. I'm going to defer to Supervisor Williams to say to describe his approach related to the county. For the moment, in my discussions with Katie Everett, the immediate need for this project to move forward on schedule without incurring potential budget escalation beyond already market-driven issues is that an agreement between a local agency and CalTrans be made in time for this project to be considered by the California Transportation Commission sometime in December. That consideration will be related to authorization to condemn property to complete the state right-of-way ownership. By the time of that discussion in front of the CTC, the agreement would need to be either substantially completed or completed. The contents of the agreement don't necessarily have to include the details of the design of the landscaping. They don't necessarily have to include the precise annual cost of maintenance. They don't have to describe the actual funding source to pay for that landscape maintenance. Those 3 items, though substantial, can be deferred, and arguably, and I would argue, should be deferred because we actually don't have a final design yet. And as you said, Councilmember Mayor, it'll be years before there will be any need for the county or another local government to expend any money on landscape maintenance because of construction timeframe and ultimately initial maintenance period, which will be at least 12 months after installation. The key again, for emphasis, is that the time is of essence for an agreement that is adequate for CalTrans to move forward with a condemnation proceeding, to complete the right-of-way acquisition and to bid the project in the first quarter of 2026. So we ought not to worry too much about the precise cost of maintenance. We don't have to know exactly what's going to go on the ground. We don't have to know ultimately who's going to be wearing the shoes that are, the maintenance people, who's going to be doing that. Those are issues that ought to be deferred in order to not tie us up and delay the project further. Any questions on those details or commentary?
Well, just to clarify one thing, so the liability, I believe what you were talking about is liability while maintenance is being conducted.
That is correct.
Right, whereas what had been stated erroneously was that the county was going to have to take on liability beyond that time frame. And that was what turned out to be a red herring.
Any questions for?
I have a question.
Yeah.
The last time I believe it was the last time we had a CDP vote for this a few months ago, correct? When we were talking about landscaping, didn't we land on a compromise with CalTrans that CalTrans agreed that they would maintain the landscaping, obviously immediately after the project, but that the landscaping wouldn't be like actual like plants and flowers and such, it would just be lawn, that they would mow it. Wasn't that like the compromise at the time for approving the CDP with some kind of note that, or at least suggestion to CalTrans that if we're not gonna have like fully floral, landscaping right off the bat, that the parts where there would be landscaping that are in the current design would just be sod. So that at a later time, a local entity or an organized group could later actually produce landscaping for the community, so that it didn't have to pertain to like, worrying about the end result of the landscaping as it pertains to the project being.
So,
Do you guys
I'll
recall
bounce
that
it
at
to
all?
Henry or Dave, if not,
Do you remember?
so basically, that was, I think as a technical matter, erosion control rather than landscaping.
Right.
Which granted, still substantially better than hardscape. And that was for a couple of specific areas in the project, and then other parts of the project that were at various times in the project's conception going to have landscaping, were, I think at the time of that meeting, there was a lot of ambiguity, and I think there was some implication that might also be the seed mix. But after the fact, turned out, aside from those areas, the plan was probably going to be thin hardscape. But that whole conversation was premised on the idea that the county was not going to enter into a maintenance agreement, which turned out to have been a decision made by staff that really should have been made by the Board of Supervisors with public input. So that's the difference between then and now, is that the maintenance agreement is a live issue once again. And if we have a maintenance agreement, then we can get not just erosion control, but some form of actual landscaping that would require some, although limited, maintenance.
That makes sense. I didn't entirely remember the context because, a few months ago it was like 5
Yep.
years.
Yeah, fair enough.
Okay, any other questions for Dave and Henry?
Just again, a little bit more context, because I wrote the recommendations based on input and direction from this group. The project would include erosion control and stormwater treatment landscaping. That was the proposal that we considered. No decorative landscaping, but all of the areas that previously would have been landscaped would have had some form of erosion control or stormwater treatment on them. And there was a plant mix that was proposed, and based on Councilmember Finley's very strong preferences, we offered recommendations to ask CalTrans to consider flowering native species to at least add some decor. CalTrans staff at the time assured us that the type of landscaping that would be installed for those functional purposes would be something that could be maintained by CalTrans doing their typical maintenance practices, which largely involve mowing, annual mowing. So pretty simple, pretty straightforward arrangement. In terms of the decorative landscaping, we also heard that from the project manager at CalTrans that the project would not preclude decorative landscaping if somehow that could be implemented locally in the future. But for the moment, because there was no maintenance agreement in hand, CalTrans had to remove decorative landscaping from the project. So one last comment, and I'll let it go. This group expressed consistently disappointment with that outcome. Disappointment with the outcome that the project could not contain decorative landscaping. And there was a lot of discussion about that, but also a recognition that in the absence of a maintenance agreement and the unanimous desire for the project to move forward without further delay and potential cost escalation, that the project should move forward. And that if at some time in the future, Gualala community could mobilize to advance a decorative landscaping treatment and implement the measures in the town plan that recommended potential funding mechanisms, that could be done in the future. The reason this is coming back is that there is a recognition amongst the agencies of the continuing desire by the community and the agencies for decorative landscaping to be part of this project. And Supervisor Williams is here to describe his position and what his ask will be to his colleagues on the Board of Supervisors. This item today is again to have a conversation, to hear from Supervisor Williams, and ultimately for GMAC to express its position with respect to potential county pursuit of a maintenance agreement with CalTrans in order for this project to have decorative landscaping in this build phase.
Any other questions? Ted, would you like to come up?
I would.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me and thanks for agendizing this item. I heard that disappointment and I also witnessed the community enthusiasm for landscaping and to not just have hardscape over many years. And I think GMAC was very effective at collecting that information and funneling it to the agencies. So after the decision, I did a little bit of fact finding. And in fact, I don't think the county had a credible estimate on what it would cost to maintain. And I'm afraid that without that estimate, public didn't have an opportunity and GMAC didn't have an opportunity to really consider the appropriateness of striking the landscaping. And the question of whether to enter into an agreement with CalTrans is really a policy decision. If you ask county staff, they're not wrong. They don't have enough to fill the potholes today. So if you ask them to take on one more task, they're going to say, we don't have the resources, no. But the public should have the right to lobby their elected officials and have a policy decision made of, is A more important than B? Would we rather fill a few less potholes or something else in exchange for having landscaping? And I think as CalTrans engages in these projects throughout the county, this one is going first, but we have Boonville already meeting and following the lessons learned here. And we have Hopland underway. Unfortunately, these are all 5th district projects, right? So my colleagues don't feel the same pressure. We want all of our towns to look good. We ought to figure out what this pattern is and what the dynamic with the state can be, how much liability it is, what the true cost of maintenance is, and how to fund it. Could be a benefit zone. It could be ensuring community members under North Coast opportunities to do some cleanup a couple times a year. We don't know what that effort is, but I think it was premature for county staff to say, no, we can't enter into the agreement. I read the agreement. My understanding is the liability is primarily during maintenance. So it's not trip and fall for general public. I don't know that that was clear during the process. I heard, I don't want to speak, I can't speak for MCOG, but I saw them over the course of the process supporting the concept of landscaping. And I know CalTrans was enthusiastic about it. So I don't want the county to, by default, say no. Did you have any other questions?
Will this be on the agenda in the next?
So originally, CalTrans asked for a time to give a presentation and to get a vote of the County Board of Supervisors on September 9th. They've since asked to push that back to the next meeting, which is the 23rd. They want more time to perfect the slides. And I've let the group in Boonville know they may want to show up, and because they're going to run into this same roadblock. This is not just one town. It's every town that CalTrans engages for streetscapes over the coming years.
And when you get those slides, will we be able to get a copy of them so we can put it on our website?
I was hoping that we would have them tonight. CalTrans, I know they have an approval process, and they couldn't give me anything. As soon as I have those, I'll give them to GMAC, and I hope you can give some additional feedback. One point I made to CalTrans, I don't think it was clear in the discussions that having landscaping too close to moving traffic requires one-way traffic control. Most of the cost of the maintenance may be shutting down the lane to clip limbs. And so it might be appropriate. I think it's only a couple feet we're talking about. If they could move the vegetation a couple feet over, we wouldn't have to shut that lane. If that reduces the cost 80 to 90% of the maintenance, it may be much more feasible for the county to say yes.
Question for you. In the absence of that kind of design detail and recognizing that there's a little bit more work to be put into that fine design arrangement, not just to straighten out O&M details, but also to come up with a package for solicitation. There isn't any substantial design material. Do you feel that the county can move forward with an agreement that creates a framework that deals with the substantial issues of liability, bonding, commitment to perpetual maintenance, commitment to finding a funding source, continuing to work with CalTrans on a design that meets the county's preferences as an O&M partner? Is that an acceptable arrangement, or do you feel as if somehow we have to run to the bottom of the rabbit holes on O&M costs, precise design, and all those things before an agreement can be made?
My understanding is if the county enters into the agreement and doesn't follow through with it or can't afford to follow through, the worst case scenario is CalTrans will remove the vegetation. And given that the clock doesn't start tomorrow, it starts when the project is done, and their CalTrans will maintain for the first 2 years. Seems to me there's ample time to have discussions and look at how to raise funds to cover the maintenance. We're talking about native, non-irrigated plants. It may not be tens of thousands of dollars. It could be. I'm surprised some of the things government takes on, local government, the costs escalate, but that'll surprise me. CalTrans throughout, they don't know what the cost is because they don't do the maintenance in these projects elsewhere. They said San Luis Obispo may be a project worth looking at, scale it back to the same length and the same amount of vegetation, but that's a similar pattern.
Can you explain what a benefit zone is?
So it would be a minor assessment, and it would have to be community supported, but better than I do. My sense, if it's a really small amount and it's for the people directly benefiting from the vegetation, maybe it wouldn't be opposed. If it's $100 a parcel, I can't imagine it passing. But it comes back to we don't know what the annual cost is. It may be that volunteer effort properly insured would be adequate.
So that benefit zone would be geared to the local businesses to recoup that cost?
There's a lot of ways to do it. Until we know the amount, it's hard to figure out how to apportion the cost.
But we have time.
We have time. I imagine it would be several years we could be talking about it, and as long as CalTrans sees that it's being maintained, they're not going to tear it down. That's the worst case. And so one of the considerations maybe if they look at that worst case scenario, if they do decide to remove it, would you rather have hardscape now, or would you rather have dirt and a place where grasses can grow? You have to check with CalTrans. My understanding is they're not going to come back and hardscape. They're simply going to mow down whatever's there if it's not being maintained.
So as we move forward, and we establish a plant palette, will we, GMAC and the community have an opportunity to weigh in on that?
That would be my hope. It's not my decision. I'm trying to back the community, and I heard the disappointment and started asking questions. So, ultimately, I think it should come back here, and you should try to steer. And the county is better at the tasks that it performs routinely. This was the first. I also think CalTrans will be better with the next town they work with, giving some options that meet their design requirements up front. Do you want A, B, or C, as opposed to what do you want as an open-ended? I think if you had known that you have to close a lane of traffic to maintain a bush on the other side of the sidewalk, you might have pushed it 2 feet out of the way.
Any other questions? Ted?
I just want to thank, oh, sorry, go.
Don?
Yeah, I just want to say that I really like this approach where, you know, we can get an okay on the basic idea of landscaping, and then we don't have to decide, or the county doesn't have to decide or come up with a payment plan for a couple of years. And actually, even if there is a small assessment, you know, to the parcels around here that would directly benefit, and although there are others that would benefit too, I am not opposed to that. I think that's not a bad idea. You know, I'm totally in favor of, you know, trying to get, you know, approval at the board of supervisors level for moving ahead with this. And then we figure out later, you know, how we're actually gonna pay for it. We have time.
Okay, Henry?
Yeah, I just really want to thank Ted for all his effort trying to track down all this stuff and keeping pushing on it and keeping this an open issue. Really, really appreciate it.
And I want to thank you as well for prompting me.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to do it.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, anyone else in the public would like, Tom?
Oh,
Go ahead and state your name.
I'm Tom Murphy. I'm a former GMAC member, and I spent hundreds of hours working on Streetscape, as most of you know. And today I'm speaking on behalf of the 1,716 supporters of Save Gualala, my good time. Who want to build this project as soon as possible and as required in our town plan. I want to stop and thank Henry and David, and especially Supervisor Williams for their great commitment to this project and for trying to fix some of these things that were broken. And some of what I'm going to say is going to rehash what you've already heard, or maybe amplify some points or clarify some points. When I last spoke to you in May, we had just learned that CalTrans planned to cut landscaping from the project because it hadn't reached the maintenance agreement with the county. We felt that agreement was something that should have been resolved years ago. Landscaping has been a core element of Streetscape since the mid-1990s, long before GMAC or the town plan even existed. The county's position on this has been affirmed many times. The community's position on this has been affirmed many times at many town halls, by petition, and at meetings. It's been included in all 7 iterations of the Streetscape plan presented by CalTrans from 2019 to 2023. And I want to emphasize, we're talking about low-lying, low-maintenance, drought-resistant plants that grow wild in the Gualala area with no maintenance at all. I'm convinced these probably will need very little maintenance, if any. We said in May, GMAC should make this position very clear. Unfortunately, that was not part of the motion that was passed at that time. Since then, local residents, business owners, and at least one homeowners association have written 82 letters to the county urging them to restore the landscaping. And I'd like to read just one paragraph from just one of those 82 letters. This is from Christine Thomer, a realtor at Kennedy on the highway. And she said, "I've been involved in this since the very first public meeting. I remember that the landscaping was a very important aspect from the very beginning. The Gualala community approved a plan to do that in May 23. Without landscaping, it would be a sea of asphalt and concrete, and consequently, it would bring down the property values of the entire town, and the entire town would look like one big hot parking lot," unquote. That was typical of the letters we received. There's this very common that I'm hearing these kind of comments. People just don't have time to come to these meetings and tell you all the time, but this is really something that's very much on their minds and has been for 35 years. Save Gualala doesn't believe the Coastal Commission will even approve this project without landscaping, and if not, that delay would put off the project indefinitely. Fastest way forward, as you've heard tonight, is to negotiate the maintenance agreement. And thanks largely to Supervisor Williams, you have another chance to act on this. Save Gualala again urges you to ask the county to execute the agreement with CalTrans so our community can finally get a streetscape project that satisfies the coastal plan, pleases our community, and would get quick approval from the Coastal Commission instead of more delays. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Murphy? Right.
Thank you.
None? Anyone else from the public that would like to speak on this item? Ms. Barrett, would you like to weigh in on this? She on?
Sorry, yeah, sorry, I couldn't get to the unmute fast enough there.
Oh, no worries.
Sure, I mean, I don't have a lot to say that hasn't already been said, but I do, like everyone else, I appreciate Supervisor Williams bringing this forward as a possibility when we didn't think it was going to be. So that's great. As was mentioned, MCOG has always been in support of landscaping as a component of this project. So very happy to see that possibly moving forward. I will say, I think that with or without the landscaping, it's a valuable project. It will provide a lot of safety benefits, but landscaping would make it much better and achieve a lot more for the downtown area. So I look forward to seeing this move forward and hope that the county is able to approve something with CalTrans.
Thank you for your comments. Don, anybody else?
There are a couple of people, but we're not.
But nobody's raised their hand. Okay. Any other comments from the public? Okay, we close public comments, bring it back to the council for discussion and or action.
Yeah, I think that with the Board of Supervisors taking this up on the 23rd, I think it would be beneficial if GMAC would express its position on this and request and recommend that they enter into a maintenance agreement to restore the removed decorative landscaping to the project. So I've got what we should discuss, but I've got some wording on a motion for that. Then as an addendum to that, I wonder if it might be useful for us to express our willingness to work to unlock Gualala's civic capacity to assist in that maintenance, whether it be through volunteer efforts, GCSD, a business improvement district, a benefit zone, any one of a number of potential avenues whereby Gualala can take some ownership of that.
Any other? Dan?
Well, I, for one, am heartened by the improved sound of flexibility that is coming into this. That there is not a hard no or a hard yes or anything like that at this point, but that we can move forward with the streetscape plan and mold it as it goes to what we want it to be.
Okay, Don, do you have anything?
Oh, nothing more than what, I've already commented about. I totally support landscaping on this project, or I always have. So if there's a way to do this, even if there's a delay in how we formulate the payment for it, or who actually does it, I think we need to move ahead with that. And I appreciate Ted Williams and, his ideas and his effort on our behalf. Thank you.
Okay, Zach, do you have anything?
Yeah, I think I absolutely agree that we should have landscaping. I feel like if Santa Rosa can have trees everywhere, we can have thing in the middle of Gualala. I feel both ways. This is a project that's been in plans since I think before I was born, and it would be really nice if it happened. But also we don't want to fall short of the aesthetics of how beautiful Gualala is. So as long as I'm curious as to what, and this is something I don't know how much GMAC as a body can actually do, but it sounds like that there needs to be some kind of coordination and outreach. Similar to what Tom and Save Gualala has been doing to actually get community members talking to each other and actually maybe gather a stakeholder group like Fix Fire Park, or an isolated, small organized group that actually has bodies that would be willing to sign up for some kind of a maintenance agreement, a local volunteer type situation. I think that it's important that we actually, as a community, I'm not sure as a council with our capacity to like actually start taking steps to get names of people who are interested or would be interested, because obviously I'm sure there are, even if it's 2 or 5 people, that's, you know. So I think that the community needs to do something like that, whatever we can do as community members, outside of the council possibly. I think that needs to happen as soon as possible so that there can be legitimate conversations in tandem with the Streetscape project, with the county and CalTrans. So that everyone can feel like, you know, feel happy about the project moving forward, but also feel like we're getting everything we want, which is some pretty simple, very low cost landscaping. So that's my 2 cents.
All right, Mr. Spot.
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay,
Okay. I'd like to move that GMAC ask the Board of Supervisors to direct Mendocino County staff to draft an O&M agreement for this project, for decorative landscaping on this project, and work with CalTrans to execute the agreement in time to stay on the current project schedule.
okay,
I'll second that.
we have a second. Any further discussion?
So I had a relatively similar motion at the only difference being sort of the wording of restore the removed decorative landscaping to the project. Just to encourage them to try to really restore it. And not just do some landscaping, but try to bring back to the extent feasible the landscaping that was in the project that was already there. But I don't feel strongly about that wording difference.
Okay.
And then the only other piece was whether we also ought to express in this communication that we are willing to work to leverage Gualala's civic capacity to assist in landscape maintenance, whether through the Gualala Community Services District, a business improvement district, a benefit zone, and or volunteer efforts.
Do we want to add that to this motion, or do you think that's a further discussion item on how we're going to fund it and who we would engage with?
I think that we're not saying we have that answer, but I think that us saying we're not just saying county, you run with this and we're done, but expressing that we are also going to take some ownership over this, I think might be beneficial for getting the result we want out of the board of supervisors.
Okay.
That's my thought.
I think there's 2 major issues in play from what you said. There are 2 issues that you're talking about. One has to do with making sure that there's decorative landscaping in the project and there's agreement between the 2 engaged agencies for that to move forward. And the other one is mobilizing the community around the keeping of that landscaping once it's here. The second item is entirely precipitous tonight. That doesn't mean that it can't happen or shouldn't happen, but nobody here at the counter has any idea what form that's going to take. And we're going to be asking the Board of Supervisors to take a specific action.
Yeah.
So my preference is to let these things go forward on 2 separate tracks. And so I'm prepared, though, in recognition of your comments regarding decorative landscaping, to amend my motion. But before I do that, I'm just going to say that beyond a concept, a very raw, basic concept, there is no decorative landscaping design at this time. There's just a concept.
Yeah.
And I believe it's adequate for us, without belaboring our ask to the Board of Supervisors. It's adequate for us to ask them to enter in an O&M agreement for perpetual operation and maintenance of decorative landscaping in this project, and then let the agencies go and get their work done. The other thing we could add, and I'm willing to amend my motion accordingly, is to ask the Board of Supervisors or to mention to the Board of Supervisors in our request that that GMAC stands ready to offer a venue for community consideration of the landscaping design when CalTrans is ready with it.
Yeah,
We can make that explicit
yeah.
if you wish. Okay, so
Yeah.
if it's the pleasure of the council, I'll amend my motion. John?
And just briefly, so your position is that we should not mention our willingness to help find solutions to this.
My suggestion is that these are two separate initiatives. And I don't believe one motion is going to cover them all. So I'd like to
I'll
move,
make a second motion then after.
yeah,
That's
I'll
good.
leave the art to you. I'd like to focus my motion on what we're going to ask the Board of Supervisors to do and what we're going to ask the Board of Supervisors to enable us to do downstream, if that's okay with
Yeah.
the council members.
Jim, could you restate your motion?
Okay. I am moving that the GMAC ask the Board of Supervisors to direct Mendocino County staff to draft a perpetual maintenance agreement for decorative landscaping in the Gualala Downtown Streetscape project and work with CalTrans District 1 to execute the agreement in time to stay on the current project schedule. Okay, the second part of the motion is to offer to the Board of Supervisors GMAC's readiness to be a venue for community consideration of draft decorative landscaping designs when they are available.
Okay. I say not from the second. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We will send that motion and plan on being in attendance on the 23rd.
And so then I have a subsequent motion,
Okay,
which would be to also communicate to the county that GMAC would also like to express its willingness to work to leverage Gualala's civic capacity to assist in landscape maintenance, whether through the Gualala Community Services District, a business improvement district, a benefit zone, and or volunteer efforts.
I'll second that.
okay, we have motion and second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All
Would you
right.
please email me the language.
Yes.
Right, fast enough.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ted, thank you for driving down.
Thank you.
Tom, thank you for your travels.
Sure, can I add just one little thing? That may be helpful going forward, I don't think it's appropriate for you to talk about that. But I'd just like to point out that, and especially with Ted here, that there is a specific requirement in the town plan that may want to factor into this going forward during your later discussions, and that is section 3.6-2, a planted median shall be provided. So I just wanted to mention that. I understand
that with us.
yeah, I just want to leave that with you, that comment.
Oh, the comment, okay.
And I know that's something that will have to come up to Ted's level, with the planning department's level, more than the GMAC, but I just want to get that out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Jumping back to item number 6, public comment on non-agenda items. A maximum of 3 minutes is reserved for members of the public to address the Gualala Municipal Advisory Council on items not listed on the agenda, and the total time for public input on a particular issue is limited to 20 minutes. The council is prohibited from discussing or acting on matters not on the agenda, but may briefly respond or ask a question for clarification. Are there any public comments? Mr. Bauer, come up. State your name.
There's 3 minutes limitation on public comment, 20 minutes.
No, total. It's a total of 20 minutes.
Okay, total for all of the public.
Yeah, and then we-
Each one being 3 minutes.
3 minutes, correct. I think I said that.
You ready?
John, time starts now.
Okay,
So, you've heard me say things about the lack of parking in our community. and how bad it is. And I've been out on Saturdays, Sundays, looking at things happening at Center Street and on the highway frontage where there's only one area that CalTrans has any parking for public to use, and it's occupied by the people that have a little sales agreement with CalTrans, and they can go out there and sell their knickknacks and whatever, mostly jewelry, but other things are there, food and other items. I just don't feel that CalTrans is awake enough, is looking at the whole parking issue in Gualala. It's going to be so horrible. You're going to say, John was right. These people are going to have fights over who's parking in what parking lot, because there's no parking left over for anyone when it's busy in town. And I don't know how to impress CalTrans sufficiently on that. They have publicly stated that there were 92 potential parking spots down through the streetscape, and those will be gone. Nobody will be parking up there, period. Long trucks, long vehicles, logging trucks, campers, people who are coming up the coast that really enjoy the coast and thank the Coastal Commission for all the things that they've done great for our community, for their abilities to be in our community. And they're dragging a boat, or they're dragging a trailer, or they're going to one of our campgrounds, but they need to come to town shop. They can't. There's no place in town for a long vehicle to park. There will not be one. And CalTrans has just fallen asleep, and I cannot believe that the rest of us haven't seen it. I've been here for a long time, and early on in my life, there was no traffic at night up the coast. Now it's thick, and it's really tough. So if we can find a way to get some more parking for the downtown businesses, I think that would be a real obvious assistance to some of them. The problem is there aren't many places downtown for additional parking. And I've looked at this facility. Today's a typical example. I think there's probably 5 or 6 or 7 of us parked over there, because the parking here, the 4, 5 or 6 places with the handicap are insufficient. Firehouse, same things. The medical facility, same thing. I used to come in on Mondays for an appointment. There's no place to park. I had to park down here or next to the trash cans. This whole thing is a disaster. You guys haven't seen it, and you don't know what's going to happen, but I can see there's going to be a big battle when the hotel comes up for and decides to go into business. They'll have between 25 and 50 more cars out there. When the community center gets built and up in business, and it's going to be really well visited, I'm sure, by the whole community and others. There's 18 places down there. That's it. When the Saturday or Sunday activities happen downtown, typically they're in the south end of town from the hotel south. And I've looked out there in the street and counted 30 or 50 cars parked in the street. Those are gone. Where are you going to put them? Oh, we'll just park them over behind the hotel where it's not open. What happens when it does open? How are these people going to be able to park over there? Isn't going to happen. So really think hard about where we're going with this. And it's basically a very tough road to find a solution. But I keep looking, and I haven't seen the solution yet. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
You have your timer going. 3 minutes. So in response to the Hess letter about road degradation, I think it's spot on. Keep those complaints coming to me. I come down and drive the road and look at it, take photos, and pass it on to DOT. The county had a break, no meetings in August. Anderson Valley Advertiser said supervisors were on a 6-week vacation. So I want to tell you about one of the things I did on my 6-week vacation. I sat in the county office and read the budget book starting from 1955. They didn't have an index back then, so I was reading them cover to cover, and I wanted to look at the long-term trends and plot some of the data. And I could tell, and a lot of things changed. We paid judges and superintendents of schools. We had surgical items. The county ran a hospital. Apples to apples comparisons are difficult over the long term. Social programs hadn't been invented. But I looked at some categories that haven't changed. Law enforcement, adjusting for CPI, we spent twice as much on the sheriff's office, or 4 times as much on the sheriff's office today for less than double the population. We spend half as much on roads. And I think that's what we're seeing. And back then, this was almost a waste product of refineries. There's a mile I see out my window in the town of Mendocino, a mile long. The county in 1965 was paid by the state to pave it, $20,000. Replacement costs today might be about 1.2 million. So CPI doesn't come close to approximating the cost that what a county buys has inflated over the years. So from that, I reached out to set up one-on-ones with every county supervisor in the state of California. I don't know if anybody's done this. I'm about halfway through. 296 minus Brown Act. I can't talk to my colleagues. San Francisco has 11. That's why the math for 58 counties is a little funny. And a lot of lessons learned. Calusa is a step ahead of us. They're grinding up roads, turning them back to gravel. Gravel is better than a potholed road that can't be repaired. But a lot of other counties have found something to tax solar panels, tax fruit trees, tax gas stations along I-5. Even though they're rural, they have diversification. We're one of the few that doesn't really have that diversification. We're living off property tax primarily. Property tax since Prop 13 passed 1978. We went from 4% tax rate in this county to 1%, and people move in. They love it here, like me. I'm not going to move. And so they don't move. Those properties don't get reassessed. 2% a year increase, but the materials are going up more than 5%, probably more than 7% every year. You give staff a raise of 5%, but you have 2% to backfill it. So there's the structural problem. Other counties are passing taxes for roads. We're one of the few that hasn't. As a result, we don't get the self-help dollars. Long way to say, I think there's a structural problem in this county, and there's been a cliff, and we're really close now where deferred maintenance on everything, on roads, county buildings, pensions, underfunding pensions to the tune of maybe $280 million. There's no more gimmicks to pull to buy time. We're at that point where there needs to be more revenue. I don't know if this community would support another tax. A lot of people tell me no more taxes. Kern County pointed out they're as red as you can get. There's conservative anti-tax. They passed a sales tax in their county. And they have 9 times the population, 9 times the revenue, and maybe 6 times the problems. Something to think about in the year ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd like to stay for the whole meeting. I have to go back to you, Kaya, before the end of the day. So I'm going to listen and then take off.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ted.
How did you work that we have music at 3 minutes?
It just sort of plays that little music clip at the end of 3 minutes.
Better than a hook.
It's like,
This thing. Are there, yes, please. Please state your name.
Good evening. My name is David Shukian. My wife and I own a home on Paul Court. We received a coastal development permit for a remodel and addition in July. We wanted to add an ancillary dwelling unit to increase the affordable housing in the community, which is so desperately needed. 4 years ago, there was an ordinance passed, 4497, was adopted with the goal of increasing housing availability.
excuse me, sir, could you point the,
Sorry.
yeah, microphone?
Okay. It put a limit of 100 ADUs in the town plan area. It also added a new section, 20.458.035, which prohibited ADUs on the west side of Highway 1. Under these rules, you are contributing, in the 4 years since that ordinance was adopted, there has been no ADUs approved in the county for Gualala, in the whole area, of those 100. There are 5, I talked to the county a couple of days ago, there are 5 pending approval. So in 4 years, you have 5 pending, none actually approved as yet. That's less than 1 per year, or a little bit more than 1 per year that it should be happening. It's going to take 100 years for us to meet that 100 limit. Under these rules, we're contributing to the long-term, you're contributing to the long-term housing shortage by restricting where ADUs can be used. Under these rules, we can offer our whole house as a short-term rental and rent it out. So as a vacation rental, but we cannot use our guest cottage that we are building for a permanent housing. This community so desperately needs. So if you're serious about increasing the availability of affordable housing in Gualala, I request that you remove subsection B in that section 20.458.035 when you update the plan, because that again prohibits ADUs on the west side of one. On my street, the majority of houses are short-term rentals, and people, again, are interested in renting. I know a number of people. My next door neighbor is interested in doing an ADU. When they saw I was trying to do it, they said, "Oh, we're going to try and do it too." And I said, "Stop! Don't bother, because the rules prohibit it." So I again request that you consider removing that specific requirement on the west side of Highway 1. Thank you for your time.
Can I just ask you, that section you're citing, is that in the county plan or the zoning ordinance?
It's an ordinance. It's part of, I believe, ordinance 4497.
Part of the zoning ordinance.
Yeah. It was adopted in 2021.
That would have to be dealt with by the planning department or the planning commission. We really don't have any possibility to make any changes that we could recommend something.
Right.
Certainly, but we can't change it.
I understand it. I understand that,
Yeah.
but I request that you recommend those changes.
Could you tell me the section of the that you're talking about?
It's section 20.458.035.
20.458.035.
Correct.
Great, thank you.
All right. Any other, George?
George Provencher. Actually, I think, Don, your comment about you guys don't have that much involvement with ordinances. There is an issue with the constitutionality of this ordinance. Actually, the whole thing should be removed. It should be rescinded. And the logic on that is that we have a constitutional right to property. We have the Equal Rights Amendment under the law. It's not equal when you have an ordinance that says, you can do something with your property on one side of the highway, but not the other one. Ordinances like this are normally adopted in the same manner. It's pretty consistent throughout California. For example, if you have a mobile home and you put it on a lot, and you look at your title, your deed, and the deed has a covenant, and it says you can have a mobile home, but you have to put a skirt around the wheels. When a person buys that piece of property, the covenant has that language contained in the deed. You're bound to comply with it. What we have here is we have people trying to get permission to rent out property. And I don't think there are any covenants that are listed in your deed, right?
I'm required to add that.
Yes, you've been asked to add it for the next owner who buys it.
For myself.
Yeah.
And the next.
And in the meantime, the county's making rules for covenants that virtually don't exist in the deed. Guys, that's unconstitutional. And county council needs to do a thorough review of this ordinance for just its constitutionality alone. It's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Any other public comments? Hearing none, we'll close public comments and go on to our public agency referrals. 7.1 CDP 20018-0005 Clifton May, and Councilmember Spot. Thank you. You're up.
Thank you very much. Yeah, could you? There you go. Great. We'll take this since I've learned the lesson. Excuse me, Zach. All right. Okay. That's not the CDP. That is a nice picture. It's
Nice
gorgeous.
if it was.
Approved.
Okay. You had it for a while. All right, while you're bringing it up, there are a couple of things that we can say just at the beginning. One is that GMAC heard this, a CDP referral for this in last year. I think it was in March. I have the date in the show when it comes up. And since that time, this fourth referral, this is the fourth time the project's been referred or the property's been referred to us. There we go, March 7, 2024. There have been some adjustments in the development proposal that are part of that referral package. So this presentation is going to focus on what's changed, but I'm also going to touch briefly on what has not changed, just to facilitate our consideration tonight. The other thing that's happening is this, we're considering this tonight as part of our decision months ago to do what we can to keep these things moving, to expedite to the extent we could, and to assign between meetings these referrals that come down the pike to us from planning and building services. So let me just say that to my colleagues, thank you very much for volunteering or being volunteered kind of between our sessions to keep these moving, because I think we owe it certainly to the county and definitely to the applicants to try not to slow things down any more than things already are slow. So initially, and this goes back to 2017, the trigger for this set of proposals was a zoning violation that dates back to 2013 to 2024. And the initial application, as you see in the CDP date number 2018- is from that year. Back in March last year, we made a recommendation to Planning and Building Services, and I'm just going to summarize this. We got recommendations from the county staff, Shelby Miller, who is also working on this referral. So there's at least continuity in staff on this project, which is great. Those recommendations, if you have any questions about them, I've got the email here. I can read it. But just again, for expeditious treatment tonight, I'm just going to say we got recommendations, and for the most part, I think those still hold. And what we recommended is that a best management plan schedule be developed. The site, again, was graded illegally. A couple different technical studies weighed in on the competence of that grading work. And there were some recommendations for stabilization that Ms. Miller forwarded as part of her correspondence. They were modest, but also that a qualified biologist be involved in restoration of native landscape on the site, which the applicant had previously indicated an interest in helping with. And that finally, because of the nature of the grading that was done, we recommended that the county consider requiring geotechnical analyses for the building themselves, just to ensure that there's competent ground underneath those foundations. There's no indication whatsoever in the referral materials that any of that science has been done. Next slide, please. 11 1/4 acres. It's in a residential zoning district and general plan district. It's off of State Route 1, so not in the scenic corridor, about 1,000 foot above mean sea level. The slope varies from about 2 to 75%. It's the large graded areas are the ones that are the primary focus for development. The site has 3 seasonal drainages there that drain into Roseman Creek, which is a salmonid bearing stream. None of the tributaries kind of rise to that level of kind of supporting habitat. They all go dry in the summertime. And so it's not that the issue of habitat is not so much the driving issue for them as much as they're contributing values to Roseman Creek. But Nevertheless, those three drainages all trigger prior review by California Department of Fish and Wildlife under section 1600 of the Fish and Game Code for stream bed alteration, and that's discussed later. And then what you have is pretty typical for kind of the upland forest on the coastal plain. It's redwood, tan oak, Douglas fir, pretty straightforward coastal redwood alliance. Next slide, please. This particular referral did include some technical studies. One was missing from it, but again, the main ones are here. Geotechnical analysis by West and Associates and a couple of studies by Soil Ecology on existing resources and some recommendations for restoration. Back in 2024, when I contacted Mr. May, the applicant, to go visit the site, he denied that access, so I didn't attempt that again this year. Next slide. A report that was not included in this year's referral did characterize the grading on the site as incompetent and recommend a complete restorative grading. A lot of these conclusions were corroborated by the subsequent West and Associates study that really dove into the details of what site restoration would include, including a drainage plan to reconfigure not just the ground surfaces, but also the drainage. Next slide. The soil ecology study recommended revegetation of less than an acre of coniferous forests with biologist oversight, and essentially to conform the proposed development to 50-foot buffers from the historic drainage center lines. And then they also include details for a monitoring and a restoration and monitoring plan. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned earlier, my consultation with Ms. Miller, and long story short, she consulted with Cal Fish and Wildlife, and they felt that many of the recommendations, if not most of the recommendations of West and Associates that really they were focused on, what's going on geotechnically here. They felt that with the passage of time since the grading had occurred and a lot of natural revegetation that was going on, that actually would be counterproductive, that with the recovery of native landscape, stabilizing those surfaces, a lot of those prescriptions were not necessary. So they had a shortened list, an expedited list of measures, and that's what essentially I'm referring to, I had referred to in our previous actions, to just go with what county staff determined was the appropriate BMP list. And that's essentially what's happening here. That's the summary on this slide. I don't know if you have any questions about this one that has more details. Nope. Go ahead. Next slide, please. The current referral, again, shows a change in development where previously there were at least 3 buildings. There's now 2 main structures, an agricultural building, the largest footprint on kind of the northern graded pad area, sandwiched up against the boundaries of a buffer area, and then a smaller residential structure on the upper graded area, and then a pump house, fairly modest structure. There would be, these driveways are already graded. A lot of those would be maintained. There's an existing culvert across one of the cross drainages, and an additional culvert appears to be proposed for the second primary tributary. The third tributary that's described in the materials is outside of the development pattern. There is a minor discrepancy or a substantial but small discrepancy in the referral. There are different amounts of square footage for the residential size, but again, I leave that to staff to sort that out. Next slide, please. So again, from our perspective, we're looking for impacts to visual resources. We're looking for impacts to sensitive ecological resources, impacts related to life and safety that we're all concerned about and subject to here in a rural setting, impacts related to water supply, sewage disposal, those kinds of basic things, without promising anyone that we're actually the experts with respect to zoning. So beyond those issues, There really isn't much in this referral other than a repeat of what came in previously. But the one area where this referral, this fourth referral, has even less information, we don't even, there's nothing in there that describes the structures. No elevations, no substantial detail. That's unusual for the kinds of proposals that you're going to hear about tonight that are a lot more evolved. We don't see anywhere, or I didn't find in the referral packet, anything from CAL FIRE or the local fire district that they've seen what's being proposed here. They're cool with it. They're not cool with it. They have recommendations, and those recommendations are available to county staff when they act on the CDP for conditions of approval. The staff recommendations for kind of a slimmed down version of restoration don't have any schedule. There's no monitoring provisions. So it's difficult for us at this distance, or for me to actually have a sense that, yep, there's a clear path for how the restoration, although moderated, will in fact occur. So that's a concern. And finally, even with the reduced number of structures, they seem to be they're on top of graded surface. So we know that there's some concerns about the integrity of that graded area, but there's also cases where the structures would be fairly close to those cuts. Again, another reason to have them evaluated as part of the building design. Next slide, please. So this is a residential property. Residential development is what we're looking for. And so that appears to be consistent. I can't tell you a recommendation with respect to the development because there's really nothing in the referral to say that, yep, these elevations look right, or the sewage system's going to be right, or there's going to be enough water on the site to deal with the fire. I don't have any of those details, so I can't say anything about it. Makes it hard for us to make a recommendation on something that's not in front of us. The technical studies that are here that we have access to, both in this referral and the previous one, they're well done. They're competent. The recommendations are reasonable and practicable. But again, I would recommend we defer to county staff to, deal with the details, make sure that the appropriate standards and guidelines are applied to the development project as part of the CDP conditions of approval. Next slide, please. So again, as we did last time, I'd recommend that we advance the recommendations of the staff planner, which I have no basis to expect are going to be any different on the topics of site restoration specifically. I'm going to request that we do ask the county to have the applicant come up with a specific method and schedule and monitoring by appropriate professionals for the work that's going to get done for site restoration. I think that's appropriate standard of care. And finally, that I'm going to suggest or recommend that we suggest that the county, as part of the building plan review, make sure that there's sufficient geotechnical knowledge so that those foundations are properly designed to bear loads under all environmental circumstances, such as earthquake, liquefaction, or ground, soggy ground in the middle of winter. I think that's it. Any questions?
A few, sorry. So you said the largest building is an agricultural building?
That's the way it's described in the application, but we don't have any elevations. There's no other detail in.
Yeah.
It's if you want to go back to that, just a couple pages back, there's one image that shows the footprint pretty clearly. This one's good. It's described as a 30 by 50 ag building, and that's all there is in the proposal.
But it's a residential use.
An ag building in this zoning is an appropriate appurtenance to a residential development. This is where the house would be.
And then, so the regrading that was suggested in a previous iteration of this, so it was suggested both for geotechnical reasons and for revegetation reasons. Am I correct on that?
It primarily slope stabilization
Yeah.
to and erosion control.
Okay.
So a lot of that work included rock slope protection, so
Oh.
cobble placed in lots of certain locations, and then some reworking of these rather steep cuts. And again, subsequently, Cal Fish and Wildlife and county staff inspected the site. I think those cuts, I guess, based on their input, most of those cuts have revegetated and become stabilized by that vegetation, and they're, in their judgment, reworking the slopes
Do more harm than good.
would be more harmful and kind of slow down the path of natural recovery.
But that didn't address any lingering geotechnical issues regarding the incompetence of the grading.
Regarding the competence of these building pads,
Right.
that's from my
That's-
standpoint,
yeah.
that's my remaining concern.
Yeah.
If site restoration writ large is done in accordance with county staff's recommendation, it's toned down, it's environmentally sensitive, it's focused on, again, advancing site restoration, native vegetation restoration. And they're the experts. In this case, I personally would defer to them. I think it seems like a reasonable approach.
And then one final question. Thank you for bearing with me. So given that this application, it sounds like, is deficient relative to the applications that we usually see in terms of information about the buildings, in terms of monitoring, monitoring and reporting on the recommendations, in terms of geotechnical studies, like usually the applications we see have a shocking amount of data attached to them. Is there a reason why we shouldn't recommend that they bring this back to us once that work has been done?
Well, do you want me to speculate on reasons? One reason might be that the applicant wants to see if the idea of this development is at all acceptable to the county, and then defer to the county to go ahead and give them the punch list of all the things they need to do to pull it together. That's speculation.
My instinct is to say we should say not recommend an approval. We should recommend that they dot their i's and cross their t's and then come back to us, at which point we can recommend an approval.
So to that, I would say, I like the idea in theory, but here's the deal. GMAC is not in a position of authority. We're in a position of advising. And again, our primary concerns are viewshed protection, ecological protection, appropriate use in an appropriate location, sort of compliance generally with the land use pattern in the South Coast. To the extent that we can offer advice about how to, kind of have a successful septic system or a good well or things like that, again, more anecdotally than professionally, we try to do that. We're not going to be the ones who ultimately have the authority over the building plans. We're not going to have authority over granting a stream bed alteration agreement or getting agreement from the Fire Protection Authority. We like to check those boxes off just to make sure that the applicant's thorough. I believe we can, under the circumstances, because this has come back so many times, is to, again, make sure that the county is doing the job. Ask them to check the boxes off. The one thing I didn't mention in my recommendations is the CAL FIRE deficiency. We don't have that. That's something that really needs to get nailed down. I don't think county staff would forget that, but it's a particular observation from GMAC, and we can make those observations. So anyway, that's my opinion. Again, I'm going to defer to all of you about where we go from here with this. I don't know what we would add, what value we would add if we had way more information about the buildings, the siding that they're going to use or whatever. Anyway.
I guess the value that I see from that, I assume you have seen the grand jury's discussion of some deficiencies at planning and building services.
I have.
And various times at which they haven't dotted all their i's and crossed their t's. And I mean, I'm even just put it that way, trivializes it. Like they haven't done their diligence on various projects in the past. We often see that they often do their diligence. It's just not universal, according to the grand jury. So I do think that knowing that this thing is going to come back and be seen by members of the community and be seen by the Municipal Advisory Council helps encourage that diligence. And so it worries me a little bit to send it back and say, yep, go ahead, approve it. We have these recommendations, but just make sure they fill in all the data that we usually have before we make a recommendation. So that's why I kind of like the idea of saying, like, let's make sure they do those things, then it can swing back through us. We're not evaluating whether those things are done properly because that's beyond our expertise, but we can evaluate whether they're done. And I think that's of use to the community.
I hear you.
Okay, any other questions for Dave at this time? Okay. Is the applicant here? Dave?
I sent Mr. May a copy of our agenda.
Okay. Seeing nobody there. Any comments from the public? Okay, hearing none, we close public comments, bring it back to the council for comments, action. Yeah.
I would recommend that we send this back with neither a yay nor a nay recommendation because of insufficient data.
Okay.
Send it back and say, we can't say yes or no. We can't recommend anything without hearing from CAL FIRE here on more of these issues. What are the slopes and structures and foundations and all the things that we ought to know about before we say, yeah, we think that this is a good idea, or we think that this is a terrible idea.
Jack, do you have anything?
I agree with Dan on that. I think that makes sense.
Okay, Don?
Well, if we don't say yay or nay, then we're basically saying nothing, which means our input has zero value. And planning department will just go ahead and allow us.
To Dan's point, there is significant lack of information that, to Dave's point, we advise, we're advisory, we have to make sure all the information's there, and it is missing some key components. So I see where Dan's coming from on it. I mean, not saying yay or nay is almost the same as saying nay as far as the process, if I'm understanding it correctly.
Okay.
Which I'm cool with. We say it all the time.
See this as a project that's going to come to us probably multiple times. Here, completed or ready for any type of final approval. So if they have to do a lot of things to get to the next stage, that's for the county to monitor, it's not for us.
Okay, Henry?
Yeah, so they ultimately there's a form that we're using to respond to the CDPs. There's no comment, there's recommend conditional approval, there's recommend denial, recommend preparation of an environmental impact report, and there's applicant to submit additional information. I'm a little uncertain as to the exact meaning of that, as to whether we're saying they are going to or we want them to, but we could flesh that out in the comments below. But that seems to me the right disposition, is not recommending denial or approval, but also not saying no comment. It's saying we think there needs to be this more information before we can render a judgment. It's not saying we don't have a recommendation to give. It's saying we have a recommendation, we will have a recommendation, we can't give it yet. So that, yeah.
I have a different take.
What?
My different take would be to approve it and send it to the people that can get the information and it doesn't move forward. We could keep requesting this information, but until it goes back to planning, where they now have to put that together in a packet for the planning commission, there's a lot of things that are missing. And planning staff is not going to forward that to the planning commission for approval without having all the T's crossed and I's dotted. It could keep coming back here. We don't have the leverage to get that information. And I think that if we keep going forward, trying to get this information, I don't know if we're gonna get it, and we're gonna see this reoccurring permit. I would say that forward it to planning so they can get the appropriate documentation that they need, and then move it forward with the planning commission, because Dave has already tried to reach out to the applicant. They've been non-cooperative. I don't know if we're gonna be able to move any further than having another discussion like this. So I guess I would say I would approve it with a comment and forward it to back to planning so they can prepare a packet for the planning commission.
I mean,
Dawn, could you put the show up again and just go back to the recommended actions, just so we can see what?
Did I not read that?
No, you did, I think you were suggesting that if GMAC were to recommend approval, we would do so conditionally, and so I had some conditions on the.
Your last slide.
Yeah, I believe so, there are two, but this is the one that has the specific asks, and I think that given our discussion today, I should add an item regarding CAL FIRE.
but we'll, before we get to that, though, I mean, so embedded in that is the assumption that planning department is going to dot all their i's and cross their t's, and I'm saying that's one of the concerns that I have, having read through some of the grand jury findings about planning and building services and about how those processes have had a lot of holes and they have approved a bunch of things that they shouldn't have. I mean, the grand jury's pretty scathing on that stuff, and that's why I do think having an extra set of eyes, again, not about whether it's done right, but whether it's done, is beneficial. And in terms of, well, it's just going to keep coming back to us and looping through, like, that's not really our problem. Like, that's the applicant's problem, and they can solve it by doing the things they need to do. And maybe the planning commission says, well, okay, if you're not going to respond, we're going to move forward. We can't control what they do, but to the extent that they've solicited our feedback, I think it would behoove us to say, there's a certain set of information that applicants provide in order to get our response, and this applicant has not provided those. And we can't render our recommendation until the applicant does those things.
Okay, I think you made two excellent points there. One, the grand jury report now has identified some issues with planning and building, and I believe that they are in the process of correcting those. I also believe that the planning commission is probably well suited to vet this application just like we are, if probably not more than us, because they have access to county staff, should they have any questions. I'm not sure that this is something that we should keep bringing back on an advisory level, but we should now make it, move it forward to the decision makers. That's my point. Dan?
The fact that this has been floating around out there since 2018 without getting any go-aheads from the county kind of tells me that they aren't passing things that shouldn't be passed, or signing off on things that shouldn't be signed off on. Or they would have kicked it one curve or the other years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So I take what you're saying, Kevin.
May I ask a question for the group? Okay, we have information before us, we have something before us, and we had something before us last year. Now we decided, okay, go forward, and here's some things that need to get done. Considering what's deficient in our minds, that we don't have building elevations, we don't have a CAL FIRE letter. There may be one or two other things that come to your guys' minds that you'd like to have. Inside interior designs, things like that. How would those materially change a decision tonight on what information we actually have today related to development of residential zoning, development outside of the scenic corridor, development in a manner that is technically comparable, at least with respect to ground surface and natural vegetation and hydrology, I would having some more images about, again, the buildings themselves and, it'd be great to have a CAL FIRE letter, but again, is that a showstopper for us? Are those things showstoppers? Or do we actually have enough to go to today with our punch list? Hey, do this other stuff before you say yes at the end.
Well,
I don't know, personally, I think recommending with these conditions that you spelled out in a very detailed way, I think it makes sense. But isn't it true that once they do come up with actual building plans for the structures, isn't that another CDP right there?
No, this,
What's an amended CDP or what?
I don't believe so. The building plans typically are ministerial. They don't trigger a discretionary action. The discretionary part is the actual development of this site. Normally, in a fully competent proposal like the ones that we've got coming up behind this one, which are going to take time as well tonight, more comes to us. We get to see a more complete package. This is a case where the county is attempting to work with an applicant to resolve a violation.
Multiple violations, but
I don't know how many there are, and frankly, that's none of my business or our business, but there's a code violation that the county is attempting to resolve. And the vehicle, from my perspective, is that they're attempting to work with the applicant, come up with what appears to be a viable development scheme, not a plan, but a scheme that makes appropriate use of the property and commits the applicant to fix enough of the trouble that was caused earlier. And that's probably enough to resolve the violation. When we see building plans again, if the CDP authorizes a building permit to be submitted, I don't know, it's speculative, but I don't think we would. Because that part's really ministerial. It's just, you can pull a building permit to fix your roof anytime you want without a CDP for the most part.
but it is in the coastal zone.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
But it's new footprint. But this action would clear those footprints. You know what? I don't know the answer. Maybe it would come back to us. I just don't know for sure.
Okay.
yeah, I guess I'm just wondering, like, why does everybody else include all this information to get to this step? If that, it turns out is like totally unnecessary.
Don't know the answer. I don't believe that it's totally unnecessary, but again, the root cause of this action is a violation resolution. And perhaps the strategy here is just getting to a point where there appears to be an appropriate use and that the applicant is obliged to implement resolution of the violation. Maybe that's the floor that the county is attempting to achieve with an applicant that evidently has some constraints on their ability to put all the pieces together at one time.
Yeah, well, but I mean, it's not just the CDP isn't just to resolve the code violations, right? It is also to develop it in
Yes,
somewhat unspecified ways.
to indicate a development path forward. That there is a development path forward that's viable, and that this applicant is sufficiently motivated to take on a commitment to fix the problems on the site. It isn't the same, this is not the same, either I think in motivation or in content or quality, as an applicant that comes in and really their pitch is, I want to put a building in the coastal zone. And here's what it's going to look like.
Yeah,
It's perhaps the differences are subtle, but there are differences.
right, but this, well, I guess what you're saying is you're not totally sure, but the way this read to me was that this is the CDP to both resolve zoning issues and develop the property. And it seems weird to me if our review is less detailed and less stringent because there were code violations. Like, if there had been no code violations and this came through as we want to develop this, I would be saying the same thing of, well, why don't we have all the details that we usually have? Like, why hasn't that become available?
Yeah.
And I don't know why we would be less stringent
Yeah,
because of the
okay.
code violation.
Yeah, I got it, loud and clear.
Dan, do you have anything else?
No,
Don? Zach?
I do not.
Do we have a recommended action?
Yes, I would recommend that could you go one page up? There's two pieces in the recommendations. Number one, that we express to the county items 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then the next sheet is the specific recommendations about additional technical content, to which I'd recommend that I add an item pertaining to get documentation about CAL FIRE or local fire protection authority approval. That's what I'd recommend. That's what I am recommending.
Okay, is that a motion?
I'll make that motion, just for the heck of it.
I'll second.
Okay. Henry?
Yeah, if we, we have a motion and a second on the table, if we do end up voting this down, then there is an alternate path forward of telling them we need more information before we render a recommendation.
Sure.
Subject to a motion.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So right now, the recommended action is to approve it.
Approve the CDP subject to conditions described here on the slide.
Okay.
With the single addition of requesting that the county require CAL FIRE local fire authority approval.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nope.
1 no. So that would be 5-1. Okay, thank you. Item number 7.2, CDP 2025 2025-0014, Hessen Youngling. Don?
Yeah.
You ready?
Just a second.
Okay. Oh, I guess I should have asked if anybody else wanted to talk on that last time. Nobody raised their hand? Okay.
Okay, everybody can see this?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Ken Richter, are you online?
Yes.
He's on mute.
Yes, sorry, I'm here.
Okay, is that how you pronounce your last name, Richter?
Richter, just like earthquakes.
Okay, fine, thank you. All right, so what we've got here is CDP 2025-0014. The owner applicant is here with us, thankfully. And the request is for basically a standard coastal development permit for a remodel of an existing single-family dwelling, which is near Cook's Beach. This includes some internal changes, 152 square foot addition, walled seating area, solar panels, liquid petroleum gas tank with infrastructure, and fenced enclosure, new exterior siding, roofing, windows, and doors. And of course, is this in the coastal zone, being right on the bluff's edge. Some additional information, project site gate on the bluff. But the landslide hazards map for the area includes no data for this particular outcrop. Applicant has provided a geotechnical report asserting that the proposed remodel is not at risk of danger from bluff retreat or erosion for 75 years. Residents, as I said, visible from Cook's Beach, and the proposed fenced enclosure for, I believe that's a LPG tank, is expected to be visible as well. Project would include installing infrastructure to connect the proposed gas tank to the existing garage. Tank would be filled, of course, several times a year. No grading is proposed, but some ground disturbance is expected, presumably for the new LPG tank. There's a septic system here and they're on North Gualala water. So here you can see more or less it's the subject parcel location relative to, it's about halfway between Gualala and Fish Rock Road.
Is this the one on Pirates?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, Pirates Drive. Here's a, looks like a satellite image where you can see Cook's Beach in the bottom right-hand side, and then the property, it's a little bit hard to see here. It's not good contrast, but the home is right there at the bluff's edge, right next to the, looks like the northern edge of Cook's Beach. There's another view. You can see the ocean waters, and that, I guess that's the outline. Is that the, Mr. Richter, is that the outline of your actual property? That black outline?
Well, it's not accurately displaced or depicted, but yes, it would have to move left a little bit, but correct.
Okay. So here we have some architectural drawings, which we were totally lacking in the previous CDP.
Go ahead. Yes, yours is better.
Yeah. Anyway, so we got the outlined in red, we have the proposed addition. It's 152 square feet, if I'm not mistaken. And then there's a proposed seating area right outside the dining room. And an alteration on, I guess that's the south side of the property there. So it's all these changes appear to be within the footprint of the property, of the structure itself. Is that correct, Mr. Richter?
Well, the part on top, the proposed addition is 152 square feet. That'd be new hard surface or addition to the house. The part on the right where it says proposed alterations, just to be clear, that would not be new foundation. The house is framed up about 2.5, 3 foot above the soil there. So we would just scab on, or I'm just trying to get that shower a little bigger. So it's just a matter of framing out and cantilevering at about 6 inches. So it would not go all the way down to foundation.
Okay, so you're basically enlarging that bathroom a little bit.
Yeah, but it would not, again, it's not new foundation. It's just a matter of a little cantilever extension of the framing.
Right. Okay.
Can I ask a quick orientation question?
Yeah, sure.
Is up north? Is up
North is going to be over this side to the left side.
Yeah, Pirates is on the upper left, right at the end of the cul-de-sac.
So north is left.
Correct.
North is to the left and to the right is south. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Now, this dining or this seating area, I was curious about that. What is that being built upon?
Right now, it's just land. It's just native soil. Well, not native soil, but planted grass. So the thought is there is pavers and a little screen wall to the left, planned left, that would help block the wind, like 4 foot tall.
Okay. Now, okay, so here we're looking at the existing plan.
Correct.
So as you can see, that 152 square foot addition goes right here at the entry. And the existing dining area has no seating area. And then the bathroom is as it is.
Correct.
Then, okay, now there's also a roof extension, some PV solar panels, and a roof deck. So these solar panels, they're just in this one part. of the roof area.
Yes,
And then you have a roof deck that will be accessed from where? I'm curious.
it's the loft. Essentially, you
Oh,
walk up.
this loft, okay. So there's a set of doors here that gets you out on that roof deck.
Correct.
And here's some elevations. There's the north elevation. The addition would go here with the roof extension. South elevation. Seating area over here. And solar panels. And the roof deck would be right here, correct?
Exactly.
Now here's an elevation showing the LPG tank enclosure. So right now this would be built on what surface? Or located on what surface area?
It might have to go to a plan, but essentially between the driveway and the fence line, there's a sea ranch type of fence there now. It would go inside of that, honestly. So, I'm not, for access and filling, it would have to go inside the fence line, not outside the fence line. So right now the plan is just to screen it with more sea ranch type fencing, which is a character of the existing fencing.
One question I have is, what will you be using the LPG gas for, especially since you have solar panels? So you're gonna have a source of electricity, presumably, although another question I have is whether or not you're gonna have a battery system to store energy from the solar panels.
Primarily the LPG is for the heating system. It's
So
a hydro
furnace?
for the heating system in the winter, where we will not get enough solar. It's a voluminous house, so that's really the primary purpose for the LPG, and we hook the stove up to it also, and hot water. So heating, hot water, and stove, oven stove, and I haven't. I would like to get the battery system. I just haven't. I'm not that far down the path, quite honestly. But yes, ideally, I would do that.
Okay, so currently in this residence, there are gas appliances.
No, there are not. But everything's going to get replaced inside. So I'd have new appliances, and it's a whole new kitchen and everything.
I see. Well, have you considered, going all electric and getting like an induction stove and a heat pump, which would provide both heat and air conditioning if needed?
It's just my electric bills are insane. So I just think for my research, it would be less expensive than LPG. And that's been my primary driver.
Okay.
Can I make a quick comment?
Yeah, sure.
I just want to tell anyone that might not know this about one of the advantages, the less obvious advantages with the batteries these days. This is what electricians are recommending. It's actually more cost effective and feasible to have more battery capacity, which gets charged from the utility. Let's say if you didn't even have solar, the utility would charge the battery during the cheap hours overnight, and the payback from that alone is quite substantial. So most people think about battery charging with having a solar array. Obviously, the more solar, the better. But actually, it's being more and more recommended that, if you had to pick one or do one first, it would be more batteries before solar, because the payback you get even just from the utility charging it in the middle of the night is quite significant. So I just want to make sure you knew that.
Yeah, one other point I want to make about the battery, advantage of having a battery is emergency power. That LPG gas tank is not going to help you a whole lot. With battery storage, you can keep your refrigerator running, you can keep lights running, during a power outage. And trust me, we do have power outages here on a fairly regular basis. Well, I won't say that regular, but we can have power outages, and in some cases in the past, they've been for 6 to 10 days or even longer, depending on where your house is located. So, that's something to consider, certainly. The fact that you're going to put in solar panels is a good first step. And, if you consider attaching a battery to that as well, you're going to be in a lot better shape to, be able to get through any power outages that we might have up here.
I agree. No, I hope to. Or I should say I plan to. I should say that.
Okay. So here are some of the materials lists that he's got here with. I don't think we need to go over all of that. Lighting, this is standard downlighting. So I think that's required anyway, right? So where are you going to put this new lighting?
This is just at the upper floor or the upper deck. There's a little overhang. That's and I'm sorry, and the front door.
Okay.
All down lights, softened.
Right. That's what we like to see, downlights.
Yep.
Okay. Well, is there anything else you would like to add, Mr. Richter, about your project?
Yeah, I mean the bottom line is we were fortunate enough to buy this house. I think it'll be 9 years or maybe even 9 years in January, and it's a beautiful place. I hope to retire here in a couple of years, and right now it's vacation rental, and instead move up there and be a part of the community. So this is all about getting the house ready for the next 20 years. That's really what it's all about. And the house is, I don't know, around 35 years old. So there's just a lot of things that need to be replaced. So I'm, doing it the right way, getting a permit, going through the CDP, and plan to do it in one smooth action and enjoy the house for, approximately 20 years of retirement.
Okay, thank you.
We have the architect in the audience as well. Matthias, do you want to say anything?
Well,
Okay.
I think pretty much everything has been addressed.
Do you want to stand up here? Thank you.
Maybe one thing I would like to add is that the addition that we planned, we tried to work with the existing design and not change the appearance. So we want to keep that feel and that appearance that the building has at this point.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any questions from the council on the presentation? David?
One question. Mr. Uplinger or Mr. Richter, how would the proposed exterior modifications change the view of the property from Cook's Beach?
Matthias, you want to do that? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, if I may.
I'm sorry, I didn't know you were there. I apologize.
Yeah, I think from Cook's Beach, there might not be any change really.
Okay, great.
It's more from Pirates Drive that you will see that extended roof, and the enclosure of the LPG tank is something you might see the top of it from Cook's Beach, but I'm not sure that you actually do.
It struck me that there would be virtually no difference because all the improvements facing Cook's Beach are within an existing roof line.
Yes.
And there's
Yeah.
behind them. So, and if you're going with the same design vernacular, all the materials are going to be the same. Anybody at Cook's Beach probably will not detect
difference, hope not.
And then Pirates Drive, you're at the end of the drive,
Correct.
which is not a through public thoroughfare. So whoever comes down the end of the drive to see the house is looking for the house anyway.
Yes,
Okay,
that
thank
is
you.
correct.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Kevin, if you remember, we worked at CDP right next door for fixing a roof.
It was David's property.
Hmm?
It was David Shukin.
Oh, right, oh,
It was his
okay.
property that we took a walk around. So
Gotcha.
we're very familiar with that.
Yeah,
Was that just a roof replacement?
yeah.
Yeah, and it had to come to us.
Yeah.
Um,
That was crazy.
Scenic.
any other questions? If not, we'll open it up to the public for any comments.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say, I'm looking at street view from Cook's Beach, looking up at that property, and I would agree, I don't. Any differences that you might see, I don't think are gonna be profound. Yeah, I mean, I know it said in the description that the fence enclosure for the LNG tank is could be visible, but again, it's just gonna fade right into the existing fence line. I don't think it's gonna be noticeable at all.
Okay.
And there's gonna be a little fence around that LPG tank anyway, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If that fence, I think it's not gonna be.
Yes, at this point, there's have a split
Picket-
rail
picket
fence,
fence or-
which is maybe 4 or 5 feet away from the driveway edge. And it's in that zone between the fence and the driveway that we want to build this enclosure.
Yeah.
So the outer line of the fencing actually stays the same
Oh, okay.
with the existing.
Yeah, I don't see any objection there.
Corinne?
Yeah.
State your name.
Hi, Corinne Cronin. I don't fully understand why there's public comment on private stuff. Can I ask that question first? Like, what kind of public comment is welcome in this scenario?
It could come from any of the neighbors that decide that they want to come in and speak on the project, whether they're for or against it.
Okay,
So it's more for public comment for the residents.
okay,
But
Can I respond also? The nature of this permit, a coastal development permit, it's something that's called discretionary. And that means that there's an authority at the county that is gonna make a decision. Yes or no, and they're gonna base it based on facts and public participation. And that is really different than what is called the ministerial permit process, like just pulling a building permit. Where it's based totally on the technical issues and the regulations that come immediately to bear on the proposal. So you have the microphone because this is a discretionary permit.
okay.
Well, and I would say one more thing, which is that we're a Brown Act governed body. And as part of that, that means while we're making our decisions, which have no binding on planning and building services, but it is a formal action, whether to recommend it or not. By law, we have to allow public comment on any of those formal actions that we make.
Well, I have one comment / request. Cause I do enjoy going to Cook's Beach at night and stargazing. And that house currently has lights that are really bright. So like you have to kind of block the light. And I love the downlighting. I'm so glad that's included. Thank you. But also sometimes you are down from there. So I guess my request is just that the architect and the homeowner consider, you know, the lighting pollution potential for the public use of that beach and the bluff at night.
Well, you have the right forum for it because you have both the architect and the owner.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Also, can you have, I think maybe the best hot tub in all of California.
Yeah, it's really nice up there.
Thank you.
Okay, any other public comment? Hearing none, we'll bring it back to the council for further discussion or recommended action.
Yeah, my recommendation is to approve the project, subject to any issues that might have arisen here, but I don't think there are any. I think this is pretty straightforward. I mean, if homeowner doing some relatively limited remodeling of their house, just happens to be in a sensitive location, But I don't see any particular issues with it, so I move that we approve the project.
All right, we have a second
Question,
question?
would you be willing to consider a recommendation that the county consider ways to limit or eliminate fugitive light exposure to Cook's Beach?
I would, but I'm wondering if we have any input on something like that, if it's existing lighting. I mean,
I'll
that's,
have to sort that out. I
that
don't
I
know.
think maybe the issue is the existing lighting, not the new lighting that they're gonna put in.
Right. Well, again, there's a give and take in a coastal development permit. There's a constant sensitivity to the affected public, particularly in the coastal zone, and particularly on the public coast.
Yeah.
And I'll give an example. Oftentimes, new development, the exaction, if there's no existing public access, but the exaction from the coastal component is put in a trail.
Mhm.
So this is a case of existing development that may have some unintended consequences that could potentially be moderated as part of this application. If there's discretion and authority and a willing cooperative applicant. So that would be, the nature of my ad would be to ask the county to consider ways that the project could reduce fugitive light.
Can I add anything on?
Absolutely,
Yeah, sure.
absolutely.
Yeah, there's no exterior lights on the side that faces Cook's Beach or even the corners. So, I mean, I know we have lights on inside, so maybe we do a better job of closing our blinds, but there's no exterior lights that on that southerly side of the house. So they're all in the west or the east. That's it. So I don't, there's really nothing I can remove other than closing blinds.
Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Richter.
thank you for that.
Thank you.
So do you want to include your?
I don't think
or
there's
do you want
any
to go
need.
back to the original motion?
I defer to the motion.
Okay. So you recommend approval. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Matthias, Mr. Richter, thank you for attending
Thank you,
tonight's
Mr.
meeting.
Richter.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
And sorry for the wait on getting to this issue as well.
So Don moved and second by Henry. Thank you. I guarantee this next CDP will be a little shorter.
Careful what you promise.
That's true. Okay, item number 7.3, coastal development permit 2025-0017. And I do note that Ms. Bradley is in attendance as well through our Zoom. So thank you for that.
You are welcome.
The property.
The owner's in attendance as well.
Oh, thank you. All right.
Thank you.
The property is located at 46800 Iverson Lane. The property owners are David Ashcroft and Melinda Mortensen. And as I mentioned, their agent is Sarah Bradley from Dark Gulch LLC. The parcel size is 1 acre undeveloped. The local coastal plan use classification is a rural residential 5, and the application meets that requirement. The request is for the construction of a new 2,545 square foot single family residence. Included in that is a 440 square foot detached garage, up to 1,000 square feet of decking. It will also include the installation of a septic system, the installation of a pump to serve the existing well. There will be vegetation removal as needed for construction of foundation and improvements to the driveway. They will be graveling the existing driveway. And there will be an installation of a culvert at the driveway connecting to the county road. The project is proposed in 2 phases. Phase 1 is construction of the residence, connection of the septic, the well, and driveway improvements. And phase 2 will be construction of the garage. I did a site visit. I observed the required posted notice that an application for the proposed development has been filed with the county. The CDP packet is complete with the required documentation, and staff planner Russell Ford is assigned to the project. Updated information needed. There was a request submitted to reduce the requested waiver was submitted to reduce the required 5 feet separation distance between the bottom of the leaching system and the highest level of groundwater be waived to 54 inches for the primary leach field area and 25 inches for the replacement leach field of this project. The copy of an executed approval of the waiver was not provided in the packet. We do have a copy of the request, but it was not executed. That concludes my part of the presentation. I don't have all the slides that you two had, but I open it up to Ms. Bradley. Do you have any comments first before I bring it back to the council?
You know, we have the CDP here, so if you wanna,
Okay.
if you want me to display
Well,
the images.
Ms. Bradley, do you want to go ahead and go through, and if there's something that you feel we should highlight, we can do so?
The only thing, unfortunately, I had a placeholder of 2545 square feet for the size of the house that slipped through. The actual size of the residence is 1,105 square feet. So less than half of what made it onto the paperwork. I have notified the county as well to get that reduced.
Okay.
11:45.
1105.
1105. It is a very, very small house.
All right. Thank you for that update. Based on the slide that you're looking at right now, you see the main dwelling, and to the upper part of it is the detached garage. As you can see, it is full vegetation. I will tell you that they got a really nice ocean view from there. And a good view of Highway 1. Do you want to scroll and maybe we can find a copy of the structure? Oh, there you go. Perfect. Thank you. It is a single family dwelling residence. The raised roof accommodates a loft, if I'm not mistaken, the way I read it. Is that correct, Sarah?
I'm going to defer to Dave Ashcraft, the owner. I am not sure.
Oh, is that Dave online? Oh,
he is.
Mr. Ashcroft, thank you for being online, and thank you for joining our meeting. So if you would like to weigh in, I'd like to hear from you as well.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, so I guess there is a little loft in there from what I see in the plans, and it's just for storage.
Okay.
It's not living space. It's all a one-story home with 1,100 square feet, 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, deck out front to enjoy the ocean view.
All right. Sir, I know that I contacted you regarding the waiver. Were you able to talk to the county on that?
I have a call into actually Andy with Rittemans, and I did not hear back today.
Okay. Well, I don't see that as a reason to hold up the project. Then it's pretty complete, and thank you for your work in putting that package together. It was very concise. So we have both the owner and the architect in the audience or online. And any questions from council? Dan?
I have one. I went to the county site on this CDP, and I was a little confused at the layout because it looked like there were 2 adjacent lots included in the permit. Is that something that the county needs to correct, or what's the story? That looked like it was the lot that you highlighted here and the next one to the north of it.
The county asked, eventually, I believe the owner will plan on developing the other lot. But the county asked that any reference to the other lot be removed from the CDP packet, and we provided them with updated maps.
That's what I thought. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Good question. Any?
So there were no issues on the lot?
There were not.
Unbelievable.
You have.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Lucky for you.
Yeah.
Well, part of the nice thing about it is that it's all native vegetation, and so, or all vegetation, not native, but all vegetation. So there wasn't any existing structures or any other demo that would need to be considered as part of this project. And as stated in the application, they're not where they're proposing the building. They're not going to have to do any major grading. It's pretty well a flat pad.
Question?
Yeah.
Ms. Bradley and Mr. Ashcroft, are there any existing residences, either adjacent or on the other side of the street, whose view of the ocean would be affected by the roof line of the proposed structure?
No.
Great.
The property that is behind, that would be behind this to the east is actually owned by Mr. Ashcraft, and his wife has been very vocal that she does not want anything affecting her view. Sorry, Dave.
It's all right.
I knew that.
It's nice.
The idea is to keep it as low as possible, so there won't be any trying to make it taller to get a better ocean view. There's already a very good ocean view, and we're going to keep the property as low as possible.
Thank you for your response.
All right. Any other
Scroll back up to
questions?
that map a second. Upward. Yeah. Expand that a little.
That's all I can do.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's what I thought. I saw that other lot on the map.
Okay. Any other questions from council? Now we'll open it up to public comments. Anybody online?
Nobody with their hand up, no?
Oh, good. Okay, we'll close public comments and bring it back for council discussion or action. Okay, then I will make a motion to approve CDP 2025-0017 as submitted.
Second.
We have a second. Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Sarah, congratulations. That's the shortest CDP we've had in a while.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ashcroft, for joining us this evening.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Would have been a lot shorter if I did it.
Okay, moving on. We have item 9.1, bylaws.
Thanks, Sarah. That seemed to go well.
Thank you. Okay, the reason I put this on the agenda is to bring you up to date. I did, based on the council's direction at the last meeting, was to contact our county supervisor regarding the possibility of adding a second alternate position. I did send that communication to him. I did not receive an answer. So my question to the council this evening is, because we are the ones that author our bylaws and we submit it to the county for recommendation and review and approval. My question to the council this evening is, do we want to agendize this item for the next meeting to revise our bylaws to add a second alternate to our list of I guess council members. So I would be interested in anyone's, and let me give a brief history on this in case somewhere in here. The question that was raised is the attendance of Miss Finley. And we know that she's been dealing with some health issues. The chair has reached out to her and she wishes to continue as a full member. And so what we're looking at is moving forward to make sure that we have our maximum quota for members at our council meeting. So that is something that we could do a resolution to and change our bylaws, recommend a change in our bylaws, send that to county council and the board of supervisors to either approve it or not. But I think it's now out of our hands, and I think that we probably need to move forward with that concept if the council so chooses. So I open it up to you for discussion.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I think we should agendize it. And that way we can come forward with it. We will need to put in the new language, pretty simple change. We'll need to publicize that. I don't remember exactly. I've got it up here. Has to be at least 14 days in advance of the meeting. It has to be up on the website and circulated for public review, or yeah, circulated on the website and to council members at least 14 days before we vote on it. I think we might as well do that. I will say I would kind of prefer to hear back from the board first, just because the language about the alternate currently is there shall always be one alternate member of the council. The alternate member shall be appointed by the Mendocino County Board of Supervisors under the same qualifications and term as a regular member. Feels a little weird to tell them you need to appoint another person without them saying like, yep, we're good first. I don't feel that strongly, but I'd prefer to hear back from them first. Yeah.
Okay. I know that we have reached out to them and we have had a non-response. So I believe that by putting it in our bylaws, it is now saying that we would like to see a second alternate. They could say no, we want to keep it one. But I think by putting it in writing, sending it as a formal board action, rather than just a communication, might get some feedback from them, definitely from county council as well. Make sure that it's appropriate that we can do that. We know that there's no fiscal issue with that because we're not getting paid.
Yeah.
So it doesn't impact budgetary issues. It's just a matter of adding a second alternate.
And then the only other thing I would say is I think I don't think this needs to be in the bylaws, but I do think if we eventually wind up in a situation where there isn't so much of an expectation of frequent absence, then we should eliminate the second alternate. I don't think it's if we had a situation where most meetings we had all 7 and then 2 alternates just kind of hanging out, I don't think that would make sense in the absence of this situation. So we should just have in mind that this, I think, should be a temporary measure and not something that, in 20 years GMAC still has.
Well, I think I would leave. Okay, real quick comment. I think I would leave that to our supervisor, that if they feel that 7 with 1 alternate is fine, but if there is extenuating circumstances where 2 make sure that we have a full house, then they have the liberty to go ahead and appoint someone. Right now, they don't have the ability to do that. So I would like to give our supervisor the ability to do that in an extenuating circumstance. Don?
Yeah, seems like to do this, all we have to do. It's the one word, one number change in the.
Right. Pretty much.
Bylaws.
And
Just
some-
change
and
the
some
number
S's.
1 to 2.
And add some
That-
S's.
That's
Yeah.
it. That's all we have to do.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, you know, an alternate, if we had 2 alternates, they both don't have to attend the meetings unless there's an absence, right?
Mhm.
So they're not required. If there's a full complement of 7, they're not required to be here.
And they can still join in conversations, right? If they want to
Of
come
course,
and
they could.
take part as a member of the board without voting.
Real man,
Yeah.
you know,
Well,
whatever.
yeah.
Well, and it gives us another person in the community.
Yeah.
That's a member of GMAC that can reach out to people that they know, or people can contact them. So it's another set of eyes and ears in the community to get the community's feedback on what they'd like to see in our nice little town.
And the other thing is, you know, we would only have 2 alternates. If in fact, there are 2 alternates who are willing to fill those roles.
Yeah,
Otherwise, there won't be any alternates.
yeah, good
I
point.
mean, we've had situations where there have only been 4 members of the whole council. No alternate, no other 3 members, and we
Yeah.
conducted business. So it's just sort of an ideal to have the 2 alternates in case we need them. But there's no absolute requirement that we actually find 2 alternates.
Right. It's just a placeholder that if we have people, someone who's interested, or people that are interested in getting involved, we have a continuity aspect as well. Should one of us leave, we have someone else who's fully vetted in what the process is and can move forward without any issues. Dan, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I'd remind people at the last meeting we had in July, we weren't short of a quorum. But we were cutting it close because we had 3 people who weren't there. And that can happen. We're mostly, exception or 2, fairly geriatric. And if I don't travel, it threatens my domestic
Thank you,
tranquility.
No, sir.
Thanks, Cyril. If we don't travel, it threatens my domestic tranquility. And all that. So I think it's a really good idea to have 2 alternates, and like you said, it costs nothing. It draws more eyes to the community, more communications. I think it's good that alternates come to the meetings for continuity. But they're not under obligation to do so in the same way that the regular members of the commission are. My understanding.
So if obviously we're 1 member short, alternate 1 fills in, and if there's 2, then both alternates have voting, and then
So that takes the
It's nice
pressure
having
off of the
full-
alternates too.
It's nice having, I know it doesn't really like matter much, but I think it's nice if you have 2 alternates and the total number of council members is an odd number, being 9, you know. That'll work out. The more the merrier.
Well, before Henry, sorry. Does Claudia want to speak?
Well, she doesn't have her hand up or anything.
Oh, I was trying to see the little
That's my mom, she's probably just listening.
insignia on the bottom.
No,
Okay.
that's.
Sorry, Henry, go ahead.
I was just to clarify, I think actually, attendance rules are the same for all members, whether alternate or otherwise. But I mean, the attendance rules are, if you fail to attend 3 without prior approval of the chair, then that's, then you're subject to removal. But obviously, you know, that's the discretion of the chair. It would make sense if it was, you know, looser for alternates who want to just not attend because they don't feel like it. But the formal attendance requirements are the same, but I don't think that causes a problem.
Well, it makes it a lot easier for the chair to not have to worry about that
Yeah,
because we have alternates filling those
Yeah.
seats.
Yeah.
And we don't have to cancel a meeting for lack of quorum.
Yeah.
So is it the pleasure of the council to go ahead and agendize this for the next meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
And
Then
why
Henry,
couldn't we just publish on the website the change?
just.
Yeah. No,
Just change
we
it.
have to.
Here's the change
Yeah.
we're gonna discuss.
Yeah, just
That way
change
we can
it
actually
to,
vote on it.
yeah,
Would you like me to draft the update, and send it
Yeah.
to Don to put on the website? Very simple change. I'm happy to do that.
So you're gonna draft the bylaw change.
Yeah.
And you're gonna publish it in advance, and so the action is gonna be review and adopt.
Exactly.
Proposed change to, okay?
Exactly.
Great.
And that's,
You
I'll,
say that it has to be 2 weeks. in
yeah,
advance of
it has to be on the
public
website and distributed to all council members at least 2 weeks before we make a motion on it. So I will draft the update, send it to all of you and send it to Don. And then we can talk about it next meeting.
thank you.
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay, on the committee reports, Henry, do you want to report, or, because I know you got and you and Dan both got the email as well from
Yeah.
Doug on the update. Do you want to do that?
I mean, you've been on top of this. I've been way less on top of it than you, so I'll defer to you.
Okay, real quick, once again, the bid, well, they didn't have bids this second time.
Yeah.
For many different reasons, one, bonding, and two, the price. So, I've been in contact with, staff, and they said right now they're in negotiations with 2 separate contractors. So it looks like they're trying to piecemeal, the construction of our park. But our communications, from GMAC has been, we don't want to compromise public safety, and we don't want to compromise the existing equipment. We want to see those implemented and restored. So they're still moving forward. They think they can do it. Staff has been very attentive to our email communications. So both Dan, Henry, and I will keep the council apprised of what's going on regarding Bauer Park. And as of right now, the money is still safe from the state. We haven't heard anything to the contrary, but we will monitor that as well. Henry?
Yeah, just to clarify that, and correct me if you think I get any of this wrong, but basically because it went out to bid once, they didn't get any bids. They modified the project, put it out to rebid, and then again, they didn't get it. Or sorry, the first time they got a bid, but
It was
they
3.5
failed the bid because
million.
it was too much money. The second time, I think they didn't get any bids. And so now I believe they have a waiver to that open bidding process that enables them to negotiate more directly, give and take on project features with interested contractors in order to try to get something agreed to. And so that's what's going on right now is it's no longer the open bidding process that would be the norm for this. It's now by explicit dispensation, a different process to which we have very little visibility.
And the other thing to mention as well is that they will be coming back to our community through GMAC to get the information out for public input. So it's not that we're going to be left out of the loop as we go through this.
What input will be sought?
What'll be, if there is any modification to the elements that are planned for the park. Example, if they find that they can't do a full court basketball court, but they have to do a half court, or if they have to modify one of the playground structures, something along those lines, if that is what creates a budget that they can implement and do this project on time within the requirements of the state. Any changes, we've asked that they come back to us and not just arbitrarily make them. But it's more of an information item for GMAC.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the conversations that are being had with the 2 contractors, is it the contractors with the county that are essentially working through the budget, which would ultimately be a scaling back of design? Like if the initial project that everyone agreed on through the 3 years of process and public comment and all that ended up being $1 million plus over the money that we have, there's obviously going to be some kind of scale back on the design as far as like what they're going to do, like to your point, you know, scaling back the basketball court or any of those examples. Are those design decisions being made by the contractors or the contractors
in
and the
collaboration
county?
with county staff.
Okay, so the contractor's saying this is what we can do for this price, and then they're deferring, that's the kind of conversation. So they're basically between county staff and the two contractors. They're essentially redesigning the project to put it in.
No, what they're doing right now is there's still negotiations. They're saying, okay, we need to get the project down to this X amount of money. They're bidding it out as submitted. There hasn't been any changes to that. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, but I don't believe
I'll make a couple corrections.
Okay. Only a couple? Okay. Go ahead.
All right. So, number one, the responsive contractors don't have the capacity, the bonding capacity to take on the whole project. And yet the whole project is too small for a competent single contractor to take it on. So that's the number one conundrum. Two, it's not being, the scope of the project is not being changed. The content of the project is being aligned to the capacity of the two interested contractors. So the trick there is taking a scope, a bundle of things, and dividing them up to the bonding capacity and execution capacity and skill sets of these two contractors. At this point, that's the effort, is divvying up the scope. Piecemealing is, I guess, one way of saying it. It's not reducing the scope, it's distributing the scope. Distributing the scope. It really focus on the words because it keeps us straight and avoiding confusion about what's happening. If there are to be reductions in improvements in the capital improvement scope, the focus would be on removing items that could be done later, like garbage cans, picnic table, wayfinding signs, dog poop dispensers, bag dispensers. The dog poop dispensers walk around all around. Sorry. Anyway, it's going to be those types of fixture types of improvements, really kind of finishing improvements, not a playground, not the ball field. There may be some adjustments to the ball field scope that reduce the overall cost by making some of the features a little smaller. Maybe and rearranging those features so that instead of having to have 4 different handholds on steps up for ADA accessibility, maybe there's just one. Drives costs down by making the improvements more efficient. The only other substantial change that I've heard of is a slight adjustment to the parking lot design that will maintain the current encroachment. The thought was moving that encroachment to the north to make it work better, but that's an ideal situation. That is going to cost $100,000. And at this stage, that's a chunk of money. So making adjustments like that to substantially take away big chunks of funding without fundamentally changing the functionality of the scope. So I hadn't heard that any of those kinds of adjustments would come back to us because frankly, they don't affect the fundamental functionality of the scope of work. I didn't get as far perhaps in probing Doug Anderson than you did, Kevin. So I didn't hear anything from him that suggested that it's not going to be the same functionality for the play structures. It's not going to be the same functionality for the play courts or ADA access. They're still focusing on efficiencies. But if things do fall out of scope, it's going to be stuff that fairly small items that could be done without a whole lot of disruption at substantial cost, but done later. So that's what's happening. The other thing I'll add is that they feel very strongly about the schedule. And they feel very strongly about seasonal disruption. So he gets it that it's likely gonna be 2 construction seasons. That's too bad. But there may be some silver lining around that. For example, one contractor does their scope during one season, goes away, and the other one comes in later. A lot of contractors have a hard time working in the same site at the same time. Some, though, can take that as a learning experience. These 2 smaller contractors could actually learn how to do joint projects together with this project. They could work that out, and that is a project benefit. So these are things that still need to be sorted out. There's subtleties, but things like that don't come back to us. That's really means and methods that behind the technical curtain and the jurisdiction of the county. We really don't have much to offer them other than, opinions. And they're the ones who are gonna, they're gonna get hit by the stick. We're not. So that's where it's at.
Okay.
Yeah.
Henry?
Yeah, just one other addition on the parking lot change. I know there was another, this is sort of another example of finding efficiencies. There was another that when it was initially spec'd out, it was supposed to be new fill for the redoing of the parking lot. And they got feedback from contractors that that was a huge expense to truck in a bunch of new fill up like into Gualala and up to Bower Park, and that they could save a lot of money by chopping up and reusing the current fill that's already there rather than taking that away and bringing in new stuff. And so that was like another one of the changes that they made during this process to substantially reduce the cost. I don't remember the number, but it was kind of shockingly high.
Anyways, that's where it's at. And no, we will not get visibility into that.
Yeah, which I have no problem. But so long as they're
But
not changing.
They're where there are access for the public to look at stuff, we'll get it.
Yeah.
I think 3 of us are gonna continue to tag Doug for updates, so we can report those here. But right now, there is no public input per se.
Yeah.
They have to build it.
Yep.
Sorry, it's long for 2.
No, that's great.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Zach?
Yeah, that sounds good. I hope that there's, I like the idea of thinking that there's enough nuts and bolts that can be omitted to bring the cost down.
Dan?
I'm just glad the county's being communicative with us about all this stuff. We are hearing from them, and that's important.
Exactly. Henry, do you have anything else? Don?
Yeah, I just want to say that my battery's down to 8%.
Okay.
And
Oh, good.
we better wrap up soon.
Well, we've got 9 minutes.
I can go.
CalTrans.
Yep. So we talked about CalTrans, really not much more to offer you guys, except that the big thrust of this is to stay on schedule and stay in budget. The current schedule for solicitation is first quarter 26. That's the update. Update on community centers, that's yours. Unless you want me to jump ahead to local coastal program update.
Let's go ahead and take Gualala Community Center reconstruction off. Or because I'm no longer on the board, we could take that off.
Okay, so that'll be it. Remove it from our reports.
Okay. We don't want to keep tabs on, we don't want to keep tabs on that one where like a different way, could reassign or whatever, but.
Who wants to take it?
Well, I don't know. I guess the first question I think should be, does the council feel like we want to keep receiving those updates every month, or should this be, if somebody wants to get an update,
I think right now the project is, there are 2 proposed projects. One is a build local plan, and another is a modified version of the original figure design. The board of directors has finally been seated, and they sent out a ballot for people to vote on which plan they want. And then when they decide on a plan, then they'll move forward with it. And a key, regardless of which plan they approve, will be funding. Because right now that both projects are underfunded right now.
Yeah. So I feel like there's probably not enough action here that we need a monthly item on it, and maybe we can bring it back if things get funded and more things
Yeah,
are happening.
if there's any other updates, like some of the other things that we've taken off our list. If anything comes up, then we can go ahead and just add that to the agenda as an update, but not have it as a regular report.
Great.
Okay, I'll do that. Starting next agenda. On the LCP, the Grassroots Institute held a LCP update webinar on the 16th of July after our last meeting. I don't know if any of you had a chance to attend. They do record the session, so if it's a slow night and you're feeling like you can't get to sleep, you can always go to GRI and check that out. It's super fun and interesting. Aside from the snark, there were reports from Ms. Krogh. There was an update from the city of Fort Bragg. Anyway, useful discussion. There's nothing kind of right on the brink of our review. The next webinar is scheduled for the 18th of September from 3 to 5 p.m. So that has a similar agenda, but again, time goes by and I think things are ripening and there's been some progress with respect to the NOIA work. And perhaps there'll be updates regarding technical studies. Just by way of open disclosure, I will not be able to attend that session, be on distant vacation, so I'm hoping somebody here can take a listen and report on the second.
And you won't be here on the second, right?
I cannot attend on the second, however, I will prepare and post the agenda.
Okay. Any questions? Yeah, Henry?
Sorry, stepping back to the previous discussion about the community center committee. It needs to be a formal vote or a majority vote of the council to abolish a committee, according to the bylaws. Be established unilaterally by the chair, but to dissolve them as a majority vote of the council. So
okay, I'm going to dissolve the committee.
Yeah, do we?
That's my discretion, right?
No. Dissolving the committee is a majority vote. So.
Okay, so let's call, do we have sorry, you want to call for a motion?
So I'll make a motion to dissolve the Gualala Community Center Committee.
Second.
Discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thanks, Henry.
It's in the bylaws.
Way to keep us on.
Keep us honest.
Keep us on.
Okay, any more, David?
Nope.
Okay, economic development, Mr. Youngling is not here. I have nothing, but I do have an update on our census designated place. I got an email from Director Krogh, and right now the application has been submitted to the Census Bureau, but it is still under review. So, but at least it's been submitted by the county to the Census Bureau. They're reviewing the application and will respond accordingly. So I will keep you apprised of that as well. Don, website, social media, telecommunications, broadband access, anything?
Yeah, not a whole lot to report. Unfortunately, this guy I was interacting with, he has not gotten back to me. I think he just lost interest in helping because, well, I couldn't really help him. In fact, we had any money for this or anything. I couldn't commit to that. So, that's what that is. But, something I want to share with you guys, and probably this is as good a time as any because it involves what I do. And that is that I'm seriously considering leaving the council, probably in a couple months. And also, there's a very good chance I will be out of state in November. So I can be here for the October meeting and maybe December, and that may be about it. So we'll have to consider, and I definitely will help with any transition that's required to, at the very least, keep these meetings on Zoom somehow. Happy to help out. So, and you have to determine, whether you want to continue with equipment like this or what. I mean, you need something.
Okay. You mean you can't do this from wherever the hell you're going?
I wish I could.
Where are you going?
In November,
Where are you going out of state?
East Coast, I'll probably be in Washington DC and New York City
Cool.
during the election.
Okay. Right on. Okay.
Oh, for the 2026 election?
No, there's elections this year.
Right. Oh, I thought that it did, and then.
Virginia's having an election.
New York mayor.
New York mayor, that's a big one.
Yeah, Virginia's got a governor and state house.
New Jersey.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Democrats.
Well, you'll be missed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wait, so is this, you said considering, is this, I mean, is this definite that you're gonna be leaving or still up in the air?
It's like 95% sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Sounds like.
I mean, I've been here since 2018 and, I put in some time, so I think it's time to hand over or free up a seat, perhaps, for somebody else.
All the more reason to have all hands.
Yes.
Well,
If I leave, you may not need the second
Yeah.
alternate, but it's not a bad idea anyway.
Yeah.
Just having that option.
Well, GMAC has zoomed at the discretion of the Dawn.
Yeah.
So absent that discretion, our meeting protocol may change.
Yeah, I think let's, if I may suggest, let's save time for this committee, report next month. So that we can have a longer discussion about how we want to move forward, as a council. And maybe you and I can meet in between,
We can, and also, this is kind of an administrative matter. I think we can have a discussion about it. Brown Act should not. No. This is present administrative. Conversations.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Treasurer's report, anything?
Got nothing.
What?
That's all I got.
I do have.
You're not supposed to have nothing. Okay,
Did you get paid?
council member comments, hearing none.
Yes,
Yes.
I'll also be absent at the November meeting. I'll be in Sicily.
Oh, yeah.
You can't Zoom from Sicily?
He doesn't.
well,
want to.
he can't, right? That's.
Okay.
Odds
it's
are
remote.
that people you don't want to know would know about it. Let's put it that way.
That's the
Yeah,
way.
hold this in November
Well,
meeting.
it would only be like 3 or 4 a.m.
I will be here in
morning.
October, I hope.
Henry?
So we'll be missing 2, probably 3 for the November meeting. Depending on Melissa.
Okay,
So that should leave us with 5.
yeah,
So we should be fine.
it's okay. We only need 4.
Yep.
Okay.
Sorry, just one other comment, on the CDP, I don't remember the name, but the one you presented on, I don't think we ever said who was gonna tell the
Okay.
county. You're gonna do that, okay?
I'll mail in, notification.
And I'll write the one that, for the Bradley.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there anything else before this body? Then we'll entertain a motion to adjourn to the October 2nd meeting.
I move though.